Welcome to the September 2023 Environmental Quality Commission meeting. This is an in-person and virtual meeting with EQC members, city staff, and members of the public. Thank you all for being here tonight. So I'd like to introduce staff and EQC members present. In the room, we have Commissioners Kissel, McKenna, and Chair Headley, and Vice Chair Schmidt. And remotely, we have Commissioner Evans participating remotely under AB 2449. So could you please describe the reason for your remoteness and let us know if you have any other people in the room over 18 with you?
Yes, I do not have anyone in the room with me at all. I am at the end of a cold, so illness, I suppose. Thank you.
Well, thank you for keeping us all safe too, and yourself. All right, and then staff present include Rebecca Lucky, Sustainability Manager, and Liz Tapia, Management Analyst 2. Ms. Lucky, would you please provide instructions to everyone on how the meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Chair Headley and members of the Environmental Quality Commission. Welcome everyone to this regular meeting of the Environmental Quality Commission in September. Summer's already over, can't believe it. And so thank you for attending. At this time, we ask that any members of the EQC to remain on screen if you're participating remotely, and you can control your own webcam and microphone. If you are a member of the public attending remotely and you'd like to make public comment on an item that's on the agenda or at the beginning, if it's not on the agenda, you have up to 3 minutes to provide public comment. And I can unmute your microphone if you raise your hand. I'll be able to do that once Chair Headley calls for public comment. If you're on a landline, I would just need you to press *9 so that I can unmute you as well, and I can see your raised hand virtually. Thank you. I return the meeting back to you, Chair Headley.
Thank you, Ms. Lucky. All right, so we're on to agenda item C, which is public comment. So just as a reminder, any public comment at this portion of the meeting would be not related to building decarbonization. If you have something on that, please save that for a little bit later. Ms. Lucky, would you call for the comments?
Thank you, Chair Headley. So at this time, if there's any members of the public, there are not currently any in this room, but if there are any online who would like to make public comment, you can use the raise hand feature next to your name or at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and I'll be able to unmute you. All right, at this time, I do not see any hands raised. I return the meeting back to you.
Thank you. All right, so regular business, D1 is approving the meeting minutes from last month, August 16th. Any clarifying questions from the EQC before we take public comment?
No.
Nope. All right, Ms. Lucky, do we have any public comment?
Thank you, Chair Headley. So at this time, if there's any members of the public who would like to comment on the August Environmental Quality Commission meeting minutes, please use the raise hand feature, bottom of your screen or next to your name. If you're on a landline, you can use *9. I'll be able to unmute you. At this time, I do not see any hands raised.
All right,
Turn the meeting back to you.
do we have a motion? Thank you. Any seconds? All right, that's on Commissioner Schmidt. So we have a motion from Commissioner Kissel and a second from Vice Chair Schmidt. Vote.
Yes, so let's take roll call, or actually, oh yeah, since we have a remote participating commissioner, those in favor of approving the August 16th, 2023 Environmental Quality Commission meeting minutes, please raise your hand. And then Commissioner Evans, if you could just state verbally.
Yes.
Approved. You've got 2 commissioners that are absent. So
Yes.
Commissioner Kissel and Pellegrini Gilbert. Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. Lynn, sorry, Commissioner Lynn and Commissioner Pellegrini Gilbert.
All right. So moving to the meat of our agenda tonight, we get to move to D2, which is reviewing and discussing the 2025 to 2030 scope of work for the Climate Action Plan Strategy number 1 to electrify 95% of existing buildings by 2030. So we have a presentation from city staff, and then there will be opportunities for clarifying questions from the commission, then public comment, and then we'll move beyond there.
I'm gonna try to minimize it so I can see the presentation. Okay, there we go.
All right, we look forward to hearing what you have for us.
Thank you so much, Chair Headley. So yeah, there's a lot of good information in here. Hopefully it gives you a little bit of a flavor of where we've been with CAP strategy number 1, which is to electrify 95% of existing buildings in Menlo Park. And just to kind of center the discussion, what we're really seeking feedback on staff and also the building decarbonization subcommittee is to kind of figure out which strategies would work best with staff resources and budgets for 2025 to 2030, and also kind of give us a pathway or a roadmap to being carbon neutral by 2030. So the contents in here are, again, the meeting goals and the timeline. We're going through each of these CAP strategies over the next several months. And then an overview of the Climate Action Plan Strategy number 1, what data we have, what the City Council directed us to do in 2020 and 2021 as the scope of work and the outcomes of some of that direction, and the building decarbonization and ad hoc subcommittee discussions, and discussion structure and ideas for this meeting. And then there's also a lot more data if you weren't satisfied with what's in the main presentation to go on and discuss. So as I mentioned in the last meeting in August, over the next several months, the commission is going over possible ideas to explore for updating the scope of work for the CAP from 2025 to 2030. So not necessarily revisiting the goals, but just more, these goals are generally what's going to help us to get to carbon neutral. And what does that look like? So what does that look like between 2025 and 2030? And the last time that the city council approved a scope of work was in 2021. However, they've kept each of these strategies as a priority on their annual work plan. And so we tend to also get direction a little bit from the work plan and kind of as items come before council. So it's been a reiterative process throughout the years. And so the hope is once we kind of go through this with the Environmental Quality Commission, is that we could present it to the city council late next year, kind of go over, this is what our work plan looks like from 2025 to 2030. And then likely the commission can take a deeper dive even more into some of these subjects and figuring out the implementation strategy.
And you say late next year, this is summer, so.
It
what's the
does.
difference between summer?
Oh,
and
next
May?
summer. Yeah, next summer. Yes, that's a great question. So yeah, ideally next summer, but depending kind of how we work through, particularly this item, it has a lot to kind of flush out. So just making sure we're clear on that. So I'd say between summer and the end of the year. So this is really, again, an opportunity to brainstorm on each strategy. And so you'll see kind of the results of these discussions come through when you see kind of the final product of how it all landed. Really what we're trying to take away in the building decarb subcommittee is kind of vetting these out some more, kind of researching a little bit deeper. What are those top priorities so that we can kind of start to build what that implementation looks like or how feasible it might be or not be. So that's the idea. So as I mentioned, this goal is to explore policy options to convert existing buildings to electric by 2030. Why was this goal really set? It's because 41% of our community emissions come from existing buildings at this point, because with PCE and our REACH codes that we currently have, new buildings are able to take advantage of greenhouse gas-free power because it's all electric. And Peninsula Clean Energy provides carbon-free electricity. That's why we are asking the community and encouraging the community to go all electric. And how we're tracking it, there's a lot of different ways, but our primary way of really tracking this is through data that we get from PG&E. So we get it for commercial, residential. There is kind of some government and school data that I think we have a little bit of access to, but essentially it's all of the therms used in the community, all the natural gas therms. And what we want to see by tracking that is that there is a decrease over time in that. And I have a couple other slides that kind of show where we stand with this. And so in this slide, what is being shown is the yellow line going through all the different years and our emissions associated with those years. So yellow is electricity, while the green is our natural gas use. So you can see it's been pretty level. It did have a bit of a drop in 2013. And then it kind of again increased as we had more development occurring. So the REACH codes is really kind of helping stabilize that. That's what we want to see when we do an inventory update, that this green line hasn't grown at all. It's just either consistent or because people are electrifying, it's going further down. So that's, I'll stop here just in case anybody has any.
Yeah, why
Question.
is electricity is going down? So emissions from just.
So yeah, a couple of things, like, so for example, there has been a lot of reiterations with the state building code to be more energy efficient. So that's part of the dive, and yeah, also commitments of clean energy as well.
Yeah, so just to make sure, this isn't electricity usage, this is emissions, which is always
Right.
gonna be trailing gas.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And here is a further breakdown on just natural gas itself between commercial and residential energy or natural gas usage. And so you'll see that the emissions for the residential sector we started off at around 40,000 and now we've dropped down about 10,000 tons of greenhouse gas emissions in the residential sector. And for commercial, again, we're kind of seeing, a little bit of a different trend. It goes up and then it goes down, again, depending on kind of what's happening in the commercial sector and what types of activities are going on there.
And I wouldn't have guessed that we had that much commercial.
Yeah, well, we do have quite a bit of like life science buildings. They use a lot of natural gas for kind of their laboratory functions. But yeah, it is a good data point. Yeah.
Is this the most recent data that we have?
This is the most recent data that we do have. We are going to be updating our inventory in the next few months, so our greenhouse gas inventory. Although I will warn all of you, I think we need to be a little bit careful because the pandemic is going to really skew these results quite a bit. So it's going to be really hard to get a clear picture of where we are under the new normal.
Just maybe ask a question on this one, the clarifying question. So it's the emissions per unit and the commercial logically is greater, right? So a commercial building emits quite a bit more.
This is per unit.
Well, it's not per unit, but the logic is we're probably gonna have a lot more residential buildings than we are commercial buildings. So you'd actually think that the lines would be reversed because we have more residential units. But this is telling me that the output per commercial building is way higher.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting too, because most commercial buildings, like for example, ours, there's not very many windows you can open. So, or the amount of heating that's required. And a lot of times buildings don't get commissioned when they're built back, like especially like an older building like this. And so there could be other issues for efficiency gains and making sure there's no holes in the duct system or something else to kind of reduce that amount. But again, we do have kind of a bit of a difference in the construction and just the comfort level of folks. Typically in office spaces like this, there's some people who are really cold and others aren't. And so it's trying to manage all of those.
Do we also know the age of the stock by any chance?
That's a good question. We don't know that. I mean, we could get that data. I think that's a good point to make too. And so this kind of I think somebody had a question, or maybe it was you, Jeff, about, how many commercial buildings do we have? We can't count the buildings, but we can count the parcels, the properties. And so, as I think you were earlier mentioning, we do have a lot of residential properties, more so than commercial. Even though commercial is the bigger emitter as far as greenhouse gas emissions related to building energy use.
And so 9,000 residential, if it's a multifamily, does that count as one or each
It
apartment?
counts as like one property.
So one apartment complex that has 5 units counts as one?
Yeah. Mhm.
You're doing it more by lots.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was easier. Again, we can drill down further if there's, a value to be kind of gained out of that to understand. But we were just trying to really compare, those emissions between those two sectors and how many properties we're talking about.
Could you close the little thing on the top where it says a participant of the name?
Oh, yeah.
That way we can see the title.
Title. There we go.
And this just, this isn't about electrification as much as this is just the lay of the land as far as like the number of parcels in the.
Mhm.
Okay, and then there's probably a third bucket in there of like, is government separate or is empty lot separate or is there any other classification?
I think we'd be under commercial. I could double check. I'm not sure if that it's separate, but we pretty much try to capture everything.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's really good.
So originally, when the climate action plan was adopted, there was two options presented in the plan. It was to enact an end of flow policy for natural gas usage in existing buildings by 2030. So what this would look like is the city working with PG&E to end the flow of natural gas to the community, which would then kind of prompt citizens and businesses to make a transition much sooner and actively plan on switching if they know that there's going to be a shut-off date. I think Half Moon Bay has this as part of their reach codes. And I did, I've talked to the staff there. I think they're still trying to figure out how that looks as far as implementation and working with PG&E. That's, I think, the harder part of the implementation and making that a feasible option.
It's all for 2045.
It's all the time. Yeah. And the other option was to have a burnout rule that would essentially require replacement of gas-fired equipment with electric equipment when it reached the end of its life. And so these were two pretty aggressive options in 2020 for the city council to review. So the scope of work that was approved by the city council was to really look at an analysis of all the program and policy options and to provide that to the city council. And that was provided to the Environmental Quality Commission and the city council. And the Environmental Quality Commission, as a result of that report, had some recommendations that they presented to council about how we should move forward with CAP strategy number 1. And I listed out what those 6 were. And I'm going to dive deeper into some of these. But one was to allow the UUT to be collected at voter approved levels. Ultimately, the city council decided not to go that route.
What would you?
The utility user tax. It's kind of, it's on your phone bill, it's on your PG&E bill or PCE bill. And it was, the idea about that was to kind of target, charges that were related to producing more greenhouse gas emissions. So it kind of provided an incentive to stop using it. But if you were going to use it, then we could fund other projects. But that was challenged. And so again, the city council decided not to move forward with that.
But initially they supported it?
They initially supported exploring it. Yeah. So that. But then it was challenged legally. I don't know if you know, but
Yeah.
a few months ago. Yeah. And so that's a bit difficult on that. So that's the first one. And then the second one was to identify partners for funding and financing programs, including a specific low income turnkey program. We'll talk more about that. And you already know a lot about that through this summer's conversations. Develop program proposals to reduce the hassle factor for building owners. And this was really kind of targeting the permit streamlining process and how to make it easier and begin formal public engagement immediately on building electrification and why it's important so that these policies could move forward quicker and develop a long-term roadmap to meet cap goal number 1. So those were the 6 that the city council supported as direction. So none of these were adopted at that time. So we were given direction to go explore them some more and come back to council. So identifying building electrification partners for funding and financing programs. So kind of here's the lay of the land. A lot of you already know this. We worked on different grants. The council adopted a resolution to support promoting block power services in the community in June of 2022. Menlo Spark worked on existing building electrification demonstration projects in the Bellhaven neighborhood. They also were able to secure funding from Senator Josh Becker's office to support low-income building electrification projects. And we were awarded those funds last year. We did get half the funding this month. So that came through. Yeah, it was great. And the commission itself gave advice on how to spend those funds and what program implementation looks like. And we're going to the city council in October to discuss how to implement those funds with a goal to begin in early 2024. So this direction went a pretty long way with a lot of collaboration and partnerships. Really good. And then the other item was develop program proposals to reduce the hassle factor for building owners. So this one was an interesting one. We were looking in November, kind of after the council provided this direction in August of 2021. In November, we sent out a survey it was mainly targeted for contractors, but the community also submitted responses as well and asked them about what are the barriers to electrification? How can we make the permit process easier? Or would incentives help motivate people to electrify because they don't have to worry about paying the permit fees? And from that survey, there was a kind of, at least from the community, they wanted to have the permit incentives. That was kind of the greater, I guess, not necessarily need, but the want to do that. So we did work on getting a permit fee waiver and credit program for existing building projects for electrification. So the credit component, so if your entire project involves electrification, so you're putting in an EV charging outlet, you're putting in a heat pump and for water heater and space heating. So if that's all in one permit, you're essentially get all those permit fees waived, except maybe like a little bit for the state. We don't waive those fees, and they're usually less than $5 or $10. But say you're doing a kitchen remodel, and part of that kitchen remodel, you're relocating your water heater, and now you want to electrify. So in that instance, you would get a credit, and the credit looks like $250 off the total permit price. Or if you're doing 2 electrification measures, then you get $500.
What's a credit off of permit
Yeah.
fees?
Right.
So no fees for pure electrification, but related work, further reduction in
Yes,
permit.
yeah.
It's not cash out. Yes, that's what-
Right, no, yeah, that's a good point. And also as part of the streamlining process and to remove kind of the hassle, Ori presented to the commission in February of earlier this year about rule changes for garage space requirements and side yard and rear yard setbacks. And so we are going to the planning commission, or Ori is going to be presenting to the planning commission in early October and getting, and then the next step after that is getting city council approval. So hopefully that'll kind of remove additional barriers. So those are kind of these bigger underlying aspects to help streamline electrification. And we did apply for the CalApp grant. We reserved $40,000 in funding, and there is a hope that this, even though it's for solar projects, so automatic or instant permits for solar projects, hopefully it'll also help with building electrification in the future. And we've made a lot of improvements, I would say, internally about our process and how we review. So someone's experience a year ago isn't going to necessarily be the same as this year. So we've done a lot of training with the permit staff. So Chuck, our building official, And our permit manager, MJ, they've really kind of educated the staff, figured out, and it really helped to have the permit fee waiver and credit program to kind of bring all of that together and start to understand electrification. What does that look like? What does it mean? So they're able to better help. And so we're going through another several month process where we're going to kind of look at what other cities, or we are going to look at what other cities are doing and figure out how we can streamline it even further to turn around the permits quicker.
The CalApp grant that we applied for, did we receive it and how big was it or?
It was 40,000. And so the way it works is they reimbursed us, so we have to bill them basically
Okay,
the staff hours that we're working on to get the solar app up and running.
nice.
So it's definitely in progress.
Okay, so we reserve the funding and then once we do the work, we invoice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. And we also created web pages. They're not completely done yet, but to try to help with the permit submittal requirements. And I talked to the building decarb subcommittee about, how can we use our existing online permitting system to ask interactive questions? So that way issues that need to be resolved are kind of immediately seen versus having to kind of wait and then having to resubmit, which makes a project take longer.
And is that by implementing a new tool? Because I remember there was some reference to another city or county that had a interactive tool that's.
Yeah, so we've changed our permitting system to Acela, which most cities are changing to. And it's kind of more cloud-based. It does allow a little bit more interactive questions versus just filling out a form and submitting it. And that's what we were testing with the permit fee waiver and credit program. How could we easily filter who's, eligible for the credit, and who's eligible for the waiver by asking questions. And then at the end, someone just has they have an efficient time reviewing whether they qualify or not.
So we've deployed that.
Yes.
Okay.
And that did, it took a while, because the system is new for us too. And we do have to go through our vendor to upload those questions and make it all work. But we do check in on it. It's running really smooth at this point. So been a success. So the other direction was to begin formal public engagement immediately. So we did, a few virtual events because we were still in the pandemic in those years. So it was a little bit hard to have the one-on-one conversations. We've done regular city council digest items. Of course, we've been helping to promote our volunteer community collaboration sessions, which some of you volunteer on in the facilitation of those sessions. And we're kind of coordinating with Peninsula Clean Energy on marketing and education outreach. I think Liz will be presenting an info item on kind of where things are. But what I can say is, we're really looking forward to 2024 because that's when a lot of the Peninsula Clean Energy programs are going to come online for all income levels, where you can have a turnkey kind of service, somebody to call, consistent kind of pricing to get electrification projects done. And so that's what Peninsula Clean Energy staff is working on, the marketing, and we want to align ourselves with that as well. So because we want users to have a very good experience with electrification. That's what we've been working on as well. Oops, did I go too far? Let's see. Okay, so I had crossed off the begin outlining an ordinance to prohibit the installation of, that was the burnout ordinance. That was, the city council didn't really direct to go in that direction, but it doesn't mean that the city council and staff haven't kind of still figured out other pathways to create policy to electrify existing buildings. And we've come a long way. In March of 2022, staff presented to the EQC recommendations for existing buildings. So it would have been an updated REACH codes. And the EQC added additional measures to consider. We did meet with the city council CAP subcommittee a few times in the summer of 2022. And at that time, because the REACH the building code cycle was ending and a new one was beginning, there was a preference to make sure that we renew our REACH code for new buildings to require electrification and to kind of address the existing buildings in a separate kind of bucket so as to not kind of thwart each other in the conversation with the community, because it can get kind of confusing. And so our REACH codes were readopted in November of 2022. And then we met again with the City Council CAP subcommittee to talk about potential electrification requirements for existing buildings. And at that time, there was, there's the staff recommendations, there was the EQC recommendations, and then there was the recommendations from Peninsula Clean Energy and other partner agencies. And so what the City Council CAP subcommittee was trying to really weigh is, what would be the best approach for the community to present to the City Council.
On the EV for new construction, so is that part of our code now? If you're building new construction, you have to have EV charging built in, or
Yes.
they have?
Yeah, we actually enhanced those more through the last building code cycle. So I think before there was a little bit of a gap where you didn't necessarily have the plug, but you had like the wiring and everything up into the point, but no way to really plug in. So we closed that gap. And then made sure even multifamily, every unit had access to at least level 1 charging. So what's envisioned for, REACH codes is it's going to be an ongoing partnership with Peninsula Clean Energy, regional and state agencies like CalGreen, which is the Building Standards Commission, the California Energy Commission. They're all working on providing model codes that cities could adopt that would encourage or even require electrification of existing buildings. Maybe not in the way we typically called it, like all electric, but maybe like a zero emissions rule or requirements that favor if you put in a heat pump versus a natural gas device or appliance in. And, that's what that's going to look like is the next code cycle update, I believe is it starts January 1st, 2026. So usually what happens leading up to that date is the City Council will look at REACH codes in 2025. And that'll be kind of the year to kind of look at where do we want to go with policy and existing building REACH codes.
So there's no mechanism to change codes until January 20.
You can definitely, cities can create REACH codes at any time. It's just preferable to do it during the code cycle. Because that's what a lot of these agencies are all working for. So, if you're starting something and then somebody comes up with something better, it's kind of, you spent a lot of time on when you could have just partnered with everybody else. It also makes it easier for the building staff to educate on all the updates to their staff as well. Kind of it's all in one, but there's been times that we've adopted REACH codes out of the cycle as well. And I would say if it's like probably more straightforward and not too complex, those are probably pretty ideal.
And what is the code cycle? At what frequency do the codes get updated?
Every 3 years.
3 years.
And there's a lot of conversation, I would say, going on at the state level. So I've attended like a CalGreen kind of meeting where they were asking about like so I don't know if you want to dive this deep, but like for CalGreen, are you familiar with CalGreen? So CalGreen, there's Title 24 energy regulations. Those are basically created or developed by the California Energy Commission and relate to energy efficiency. And that's where we've typically housed, in our REACH code, they're still housed with amendments to the Title 24 energy codes through the California. So when we amend those codes, we have to get approval from the California Energy Commission. Although their authority is really limited, they just want to know that we've done a cost effectiveness kind of analysis, that we understand, that we can't go below the energy efficiency standards of the California Energy Commission. So that's one pathway. And then another pathway that cities have started to dabble in is with CalGreen. So CalGreen is developed by the California Building Standards Commission. And like even before electrification, the CalGreen chapter was developed for water conservation, indoor air quality. It's got a lot of great things in there. Actually, it's like one of the best reads if you're into sustainability. And over the years, what they do is they kind of add more CalGreen requirements. So then there's the bare minimum requirements of what the state requires. And they'll even take it a step further that you can adopt these different tiers of CalGreen, like voluntarily. So you can say, look, I like all this stuff in tier 2. This is amazing. That's where you get like, here's even more EV requirements if you want to go more aggressive. And so it's kind of interesting to, look at that and see, are there ways forward through something that the state has vetted out that they've spent staff time looking into, and saying that we think that this could really be complementary or more aggressive than what we currently have. If you have the appetite for it, go for it. And so it's usually 2 tiers, tier 1 and tier 2. There might be tier 3. But I think we find it easier to adopt those because they're very code. They're in a language that building officials and building inspectors kind of already understand. So that makes it easier.
Have we adopted any of those tiers?
We did for the EV. Yeah, so we actually, and it was easier because then we just make references that you're going to use tier 2 EV charging requirements for multifamily and CalGreen. So it makes it very efficient to implement.
But it sounds like there's a bunch of different categories. So EV, well, you said in water.
Yes. Yeah, you can choose. Yeah, you can kind of pick and choose what you want in each of those tiers. You can adopt like all of the voluntary measures that you want.
Everybody has to do tier 1. So tier 2 is voluntary.
No, tier 1 is also like, it's like so CalGreen has their minimum and then they have a tier 1, which is like, ooh, you want to go, you just want to dip your toe in, like, here's what that looks like. And if you're a community that's really ready for some aggressive action, then you've got tier 2.
Okay. Cool.
And we did talk about this a few meetings ago. Tom Cabot presented on this about the Bay Area Air Quality Management District's adopted rules this year that would prohibit the manufacture and installation of gas-fired water heaters in communities within the district, starting in 2027. And then for furnaces, that would start on January 1st, 2029. And as Commissioner McKenna has mentioned, and former Commissioner Cabot, they're going to check in 2 years before these effective dates and kind of figure out, like, is it still feasible to implement this rule, or do we need to push it out because the technology isn't there, or the workforce isn't there, or that there's other issues that need to be resolved. And this is all really beyond Menlo Park, kind of what's going on to consider for a 2025-2030 scope of work update. And then, as I mentioned, the REACH code. So Peninsula Clean Energy, Silicon Valley Clean Energy, which is in Santa Clara, they're all working on model codes. CalGreen is California Energy Commission. I'd kind of say with the way it looks like to me right now is they're not all the same. I'd say the California Energy Commission is looking more at EDR, which is energy design. Maybe John, I can't remember the acronym. Energy design rating or something. So you get like a certain point, like say the minimum is 10. Like if you're building or if you're remodeling, you have to meet a 10 on your EDR score. Well, you can make that higher to favor building electrification in existing buildings. So that's kind of what I hear them working on. And then CalGreen is looking more at like a zero emission type of tier. If you're taking out maybe an appliance and you're replacing it, it's got to be zero emission.
Nice.
And I haven't heard too much on the regional level, so I know they're exploring. So Peninsula Clean Energy and Silicon Valley Clean Energy.
Your energy design rating.
Thank you. I got it.
Yeah,
All right.
never done.
And then I just wanted to make a note on incentives. The landscape, I think I've mentioned this a few times, it's changing, it's growing rapidly. I think the thing to take away is you know, that they seem to be staying for quite some time to get people to transition. And so as we kind of figure out what to do between 2020, 2025 and 2030, and how do incentives fit into that, I think it's leveraging what we know is already here or what's going to be coming. And then just to, again, touch on equity. We mentioned this with EV charging, that 40% of Menlo Park's population resides in multifamily properties. They tend to be the harder ones to electrify. So if we're trying to target, again, reaching carbon neutrality anytime soon, we're going to have to kind of really noodle on how can we make this work in multifamily properties, or particularly rental properties, where there's a split incentive sometimes. The property owner may not be getting the savings benefit from the heat pump. So those are all kind of factors to consider. And so staff did meet with the building decarb, the EQC building decarb ad hoc subcommittee. We met in August. We're going to meet again in October. So 2 of you are here. Three. Oh, 3. Oh, Angela, I'm sorry. We can't see you, but you are here. Yes. Three of us.
Here.
And what we initially talked about was exploring an instant permit process that would involve, you know, mailing pre-approved permits to building owners in Menlo Park. Exploring a permit and building inspection leniency and amnesty kind of program. So that way, because in order to get many of these incentives, you do need to get a building permit. If you're going to participate in probably PC's direct install program, you need a building permit. And the concern is that folks may not participate and then not electrify because they're worried about unpermitted work that has already occurred, or those factors. And our policy is to really look at what is on the building permit and focus in on, whether that meets the code. So if it's a conversion from a gas-fired water heater to a heat pump, that's what the building inspector is looking for. And so it's just finding ways to kind of communicate that to the general public. And then exploring rental protection policies to ensure that the equipment upgrades really keep rental prices affordable and don't displace residents. Okay, so we're almost at the end here, so ready for discussion. So similar to what we discussed last month, trying to focus in on the barriers, where's the biggest bang for the staff capacity and budget. And Chair Headley did send out kind of an email to help brainstorm, which is, bring some ideas so that staff and the building decarb ad hoc subcommittee can return back to the commission with a more filtered set of ideas, kind of what to move forward. And then there was a lot of data at the end of the presentation that we can go over too, but it kind of drilled down into numbers, buildings, and incentive information.
I got a question on some of the additional data.
Sure.
So cost to electrify starting in 2024 says $12,000 for battery storage for a median home, but then there's discounts, thanks to SGIP and other programs. But then it also says it'll cost you nothing for areas with 2 or more power outage events. So, like, Menlo Park had more than 2, so can everybody get free storage now?
Maybe. I think I could follow up with PCE on that. Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like a thing to market if it's available. So I think we are at the clarifying questions stage. Is that true? Unless you had anything else you wanted to share? Okay, so we've been asking questions as we go, but I just want to create space if there are any additional clarifying questions before we move to public comment. I have one. So with the multifamily homes and our relationship with Block Power, I understood that was really their area of specialty, but I guess I'm wondering how that's going and if they might be useful as we look to tackle that particular area of electrification.
Yeah, I do know that is an area that they've been working in the Bay Area, not just in our city, but in other cities as well. Don't have a particular update. Maybe Commissioner Evans might, because I know she is in contact. Our role at the city is really to promote their services and kind of make sure people have access and know what they do.
I can attempt to answer that if you'd like me to do that now. Okay. Yes, Block Power historically has expertise in multifamily. It's how they got their start, as I understand it, in New York. Menlo Spark does have a joint application right now with CRC and Block Power for the Department of Energy Buildings Up Prize, it's called, to electrify a property in our Bellhaven community and our East Palo Alto community. I would say that Block Power's results on multifamily in Menlo Park have been slower than I had hoped. But I think that they are getting ready to scale. I will also say that Menlo Spark has recently started, at least for one particular property in Menlo Park, looking at another partner to decarbonize a large low-income senior facility on Crane Street. And I won't go into this now because this doesn't really fall into clarification questions, but one of my ideas for the brainstorming is to explore a potential new and or different multifamily partner going forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Evans. All right, so if there are no more clarifying questions, we can move to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Headley. Yes, if there are any members of the public who would like to make comment on this item, which is basically a brainstorming session on CAP strategy number 1 to electrify 95% of existing buildings by 2030. And we're looking at scope of work for that to meet that goal between 2025 and 2030. You can use the raised hand feature that is at the bottom of your Zoom screen or next to your name. And once I see your hand, I'll be able to unmute you. If you're on a landline, you can use *9 and I'll be able to see your raised hand as well. We don't have any members of the public in person right now. But again, if you'd like to make public comment, you could raise your virtual hand. No raised hands at this time. I'll return the meeting back to you, Chair Headley.
All right, so now we get to open this up for EQC discussion. And the goal tonight is to share ideas and to begin to prioritize how we think about them. So that the building decarb subcommittee and staff can go and explore things further. And let's see, so the idea that I had was that we could hear from, well, one idea from each commissioner, kind of do like round robins of ideas. And Rebecca has a spreadsheet ready to go, so we can plug in ideas. So whenever I've done this in the past, often like someone will have an idea, but there's like a related idea or like a sub idea. So we can begin to kind of organize, and we'll just tell Rebecca like, hey, this one is related to this, but it's, either on top or below or connected. And then we'll hear from everyone. And then what we were thinking we would do was do some voting. Like if we each had, say, I'm imagining 5 votes that we decide, like, these are the 5 things that I want to do. And then we'll take a break. Rebecca will consolidate the votes, and then we'll look and see like where the top priorities are. And then we can discuss and like firm up and do an official vote. This voting would be more of a informal, but just to help us kind of figure out what is the top priority.
So one additional input into that process is the subcommittee has met, and I think right now Commissioner Evans has a prioritized list from the subcommittee.
Great. So we'll
share.
Maybe we can start there and we can kind of fill it in, and then if anybody else has ideas that weren't already articulated, then we can add those and then we can vote.
Okay.
informally,
Yeah,
and then,
yeah.
yeah, okay. That sounds good. All right, so, Commissioner Evans, are you ready to go?
I am, although,
Awesome.
Brian and John, please jump in. We've met a bunch of times and we met again today to discuss this further. Although I will
Oh.
say what was that?
I was just gonna say, before you start, this is more direction for Rebecca. What I was thinking we could do is number all the different strategies so that it's easy for us to vote. We say, I want
Yeah.
number 1, 5, 7, and 2. Yeah, okay, sorry, back to you, Commissioner Evans.
But I will also say to Commissioner McKenna and Commissioner Kissel, that as I've been listening once more tonight, obviously I read the staff report before and I've been listening tonight, I have an additional idea. So I have another one that will emerge. Okay, so you
That's
guys,
because you are a creative volcano.
yeah, okay, well, thank you, Nancy. Okay, so you guys jump in at any time, okay? All right, I think first and foremost, the three of us feel that, or I'll use the I pronoun. I feel strongly that, at least historically speaking, even with the best of intentions, voluntary measures, incentives, carrots, while one would hope that they would bring us to scaled solutions when it comes to climate, they just have not done so. They haven't done so historically, which is why we're in this climate crisis. And all of our great economists and scientists converge and say that we will need some regulation in addition to all of the wonderful incentives we have if we're going to scale and meet our goals. And I think that holds true in the city of Menlo Park as well. And that gets us to, I'll say, building regulation. And we've hit some road bumps politically with the city of Berkeley, but it gets us back to replace on burnout with REACH codes. I'm also very, and this is where I may deviate, John and Brian, so feel free to add. I'm also very interested in our subcommittee and staff exploring additional, potentially other regulatory pathways that might help us hone in on standards for commercial buildings, especially since, despite the fact that they're a minority share of our existing buildings, they produce the largest greenhouse gas emissions in our city. And this is where my feedback is a little bit nebulous because I don't know what those regulatory pathways might be. I've had other non-EQC colleagues talk about commercial building standards, but I can't help but wonder if there are other ways besides REACH codes, or maybe it's also REACH codes, that we can use regulation to get commercial, and maybe it's the life sciences emissions down.
Okay. As you go, Commissioner Evans, can you make sure that Rebecca's properly captured the headline for each of the ideas?
Yeah, I mean, I would,
Yeah.
yes, I would say, I like what you have there, Rebecca. Thank you. I would add maybe something in front of that says, explore building regulations generally, not just commercial. And that goes back to REACH codes for residential properties as well.
I'm gonna suggest, yeah, that we have two different ones. Okay. Okay.
Okay. John, Brian, want to add anything to that? I hear silence. Okay.
Well, I thought we were more definitive on the kind of REACH code 2.0 burnout. It wasn't explore, it was like
Replace on burnout as a
replace on
specific.
burnout as a goal. And
Yeah.
the conversation we had earlier today was, we're concerned about kind of political ramifications. And at least my point on this was, if the Menlo Park legal counsel has said, this is potentially at risk, we may not be able to implement that.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear more about what the risk to us is, because if we pass these REACH code 2.0 and a subsequent lawsuit undermines it, we just table it.
Yeah.
So there's, I don't see the risk to us of passing the codes now And then if we have to amend them based on future lawsuits, let's do that, but let's not wait, because we're waiting to see what the courts are gonna do. So
Okay.
that was kind of my number one. Especially when Rebecca and John explained in more detail all the caveats to Reach Code 2.0 that were intended to protect people against overly burdensome requirements. It seemed very plausible, and I think we should push hard for it.
Okay. So let's make sure we've got that captured properly there.
That could be number
Well-
one then. I don't know that we need a number one and a number three. Do you guys disagree?
No.
We're gonna
I
vote on
agree.
these, right?
I
No,
think
she's saying we
we don't
don't
need
need-
number one.
Because it's too broad.
Oh,
Yeah.
We should make number three number one.
Yep.
sorry, number three, number,
Well, we can
it-
prioritize them later,
I guess
so.
it doesn't matter.
but you're saying that we don't need this one because it's
Yeah.
basically
Yeah,
a regulation.
There you go.
I would just add, I fully agree with my subcommittee colleagues, because, you know, we can look to Bay Area Air Quality Management District, we can look to the state, but those are years away from, and I know, and we're kind of talking about 2025 to 2030. I mean, I would, in a perfect world, we would accelerate this to now, like, let's do this now. But I would say when we explore a reach code, let's take into account what has happened in Berkeley and develop a reach code that we think would be safe from that type of lawsuit. And I believe there's people working on these types of reach codes, but I don't know if they're for existing buildings. I don't know. I think they might just be for new construction because that's all that exists really now, except for maybe San Mateo, Portola Valley, and Palo Alto, for existing buildings. So I think we need to consider a reach code for existing buildings that factors in what's happened in Berkeley and also is equitable and, you know, doesn't overburden people. If there's economic hardship, you don't have to comply. If there's technical infeasibility, you don't have to comply. If the cost of going electric versus gas is exorbitantly different, you know, we come up with what that number is, like 110% or whatever. So look at a reach code and craft it with using the knowledge we have today.
So can I offer like for number one, that meets legal constraints and feasibility and equity concerns? Great. Anything else from our building decarb subcommittee that's been thinking deeply about this? I also think I forgot to say thank you to Rebecca for that beautiful presentation. Like there was so much fabulous, I know, like backstory and data, and for the people who need a lot of data, I think they're very happy. So thank you. Yeah, and thank you for all your work and your care in this.
Thank you for saying that. I second that as well. Thank you, Rebecca. And
Yeah.
yet, your subcommittee has more. Buckle your seatbelt. Here we go. Okay.
Okay,
Next
rock
one
on.
in no particular order was, as we heard from Rebecca and many of us know, Peninsula Clean Energy is launching a turnkey sort of one-stop shop kind of service, I believe for January 2024 for all homeowners, whether you're low income or market rate, single family homeowners, to electrify. And this is, I think, initially what we were hoping Block Power would do, and we were always hoping that Peninsula Clean Energy would launch their own, and now they are. So this is incredibly exciting. The piece that's missing, the piece that this will not address, are multifamily properties. And so our recommendation is that the city explore and consider an RFP to obtain a multifamily property partner that can be a one-stop shop for multifamily electrification in our city. And I will say that Menlo Spark is actively working to pilot some of those right now, and fingers crossed that they can be successful with that.
Great.
And I do know some partners. I don't need to mention, you know, names of firms here, but there are a number who have tremendous expertise in electrifying multifamily properties in California. And I'd be happy to send some of those names to staff, and I'm sure staff can uncover many of those on their own through an RFP.
And to build on this point, especially in view of what we heard, about 40% of the housing stock is multifamily. I wasn't aware that it was that big. This becomes all that much more important.
Yep.
Agreed. Is there anything about, with regard to the PCE direct install program, maybe having city staff, like having, marketing messages come out from the city to publicize that availability. I don't know if that's something that we want to put here or if that's already assumed.
I think, like, one of the things we thought maybe obvious, but not just outreach, just education and outreach has got to be a big part of what the city can do to help its residents make the transition. And figuring out programs that provide all those tools and information. And or maybe it's just enhancing what the city's already doing.
Right.
In that regard.
I think the main thing that I had been hearing is that if, especially in the Bellhaven community, when messages come from the city, it has more weight and substance and like they feel like they can trust it.
Yeah, they trust us.
Yeah. So,
Give
okay,
my blessing, so to speak. Yep.
yeah, okay, continuing on with your guys' ideas.
Well, you know, maybe part of number 4 then would be my next one, which is, so this could be the PCE turnkey program, but it could also be, we know with a variety of incentives that are going live, frankly, in just a couple of weeks, that for most single family homeowners, sorry, there's about to be some background noise here. Sorry. We know that for most homeowners, replacing your water heater, assuming you're at the end of life, with an electric heat pump version is likely to be low cost or no cost. And so while those incentives are hot, we think it could really make sense to do a huge outreach push to reach residents so they know about these incentives, so that they're educated about how to, you know, go in their closet or go in their garage and figure out what to do and how to act on it.
Okay,
So maybe do we put a comma after program, PCE direct install program, comma, heat pump hot water heater?
or is this a separate thing that's like, let's,
Well, the reason when we met this morning, I called it out because I feel like in addition to the regulatory, stick, if you will, the carrot is economics. And when you can do something that's, good for you and economically compelling and good for the environment,
it's a no-brainer.
like we should really be making sure people know about that. And the second part of it is it demystifies heat pumps. It gets people, it's a baby step, like doing an HVAC replacement is much bigger.
Yeah.
Investment, commitment, risk factor. But for heat pump hot water heaters, it's a much lower risk and effort. And if we can get people starting to do that and building that momentum, so that's why I wanted to call it out as a separate thing.
Yeah, so maybe number
So-
5.
Maybe, I don't know.
I think if I may,
Yeah,
part of the direct install program that PCE is creating is going to include all the incentives. So I think ideally, like if I were a customer and I wanted to get, a mailer or something, if it said PCE provides direct install service, you get, consistent pricing, the contractor lined up. And, if you're at this income level, it's going to just cost you this much because they're already handling all the incentives, because part of their RFP includes the installers also handling all of the incentive, which also kind of creates like a big breath of relief, right? Because you're not having to apply for all the different incentives available. They educate you on how to get your tax credit if that's, due to you.
is the PCE program though primarily focused on whole home electrification or is the menu? Because if they're going at people saying, here, we can electrify your entire home, if people are gonna go. Or they, if there's equally weighted messaging that says, you can get a heat pump, hot water heater now for free. Right, and that's gonna be a much lower threshold.
Yeah, it's kind of, I think, and I don't know what their marketing strategy will be, like maybe the hot or the water heaters will be like the gateway of how they market
I'm
things.
just thinking, so.
Once they're in there,
Yeah, as long as the program is more of a pick from the Chinese menu as opposed to it's all or nothing. We're either gonna come in and electrify your entire home
Yeah,
or we're not.
yeah.
So it's really
And I
about
think,
positioning,
yeah.
messaging.
I do know with their home upgrade program, like what they're looking to do is, they're looking for like a total number of whole home electrification, but they can add it up because maybe people already have a heat pump, water heater, but they just need the HVAC. And so I think they are kind of working on it, but it is a good question for PC.
So I guess what I'm saying is that PCE isn't gonna go out with a strongly focused message about just heat pump hot water heaters as a standalone option. Then I think the city should maybe
Yeah.
consider taking that on.
Okay, so is that number 5?
Sure. I was gonna add that that kind of plays into,
Well,
go ahead.
is the marketing, I mean, it could be, I see it as like what the city can't do, marketing and promotion of it, like, so it's us marketing PCE's program and the incentive, so we can even tailor it, right? Like, we could do 1 month where we focus on heat pumps. The next month we can focus on,
Okay,
and I think that's captured in this. It's basically, a lot of marketing and promotion of these turnkey incentive programs.
Yeah.
And again, what we're trying to do is just make sure we're aligning with the way PC, so the messaging all kind of.
Yeah, it should
informs.
be. Yeah.
great.
Right.
Yes,
Kind of Brian was saying, kind of ties into what we talked about in our meeting in terms of permit streamlining and just sending out a permit to everybody. Here's your permit to install a heat pump water heater to replace your gas water heater in your garage. And so that's marketing right there. Why am I getting this? Oh, and then there's some sort of QR code or web link that says, here's all the information you need to do to follow to do this work. Once you've completed the work, call the city, we'll come inspect and pass it. So that really promotes what rebates are available to do those sort of low hanging fruit things that are slipping through the cracks, truthfully, right now, because very few people get a permit to replace their water heater. So
right.
I think that would play in with that. And then, it's also gonna say, PCE is a great resource, but there is Block Power, there is Quick Carbon, there are other organizations out there that will help people make the process easier, help you make a plan, tie you in with the rebates, tie you in with the contractors. So, it's great that PCE is doing it, but we should also let people know there's other folks that are developing programs like that as well, similar.
Yeah, some work is good because they get the credit at point of sale.
Okay,
So I added that in here. I also added what was from the PowerPoint presentation of the building decarb subcommittee point.
so the amnesty program and the
Yeah.
rental protection policies. Okay, great.
I feel like those two, though, I feel like correct me if I'm wrong, Rebecca, but number 6 and number 7 specifically, I think as we discussed them, felt like pieces that would need to be figured out or done by the city, no matter what our larger programmatic priorities were, because we know that we're going to need those no matter what path we take. So they definitely strike me as being included in the scope of work, but less about voting upon them. I don't know. Am I incorrect about that?
I mean, for number 6, I think we had discussed this, I think or it was you and I, but I did talk to the building official. And we do have the policy again, where we just look at the work being done. So I think in a way we are kind of implementing this already, unless there's like more that we can do. And I think we talked about like the communication aspect of it, that, do not fear getting a permit. We only look at the scope of work, really, that's on the permit. But for number 7, I think what, as part of staff in the building decarb subcommittee is trying to, figure out, because if we're going to explore rental protection policies, that might end up as a trade-off with one of the other ideas that we're trying to explore. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'd rather at least keep number 7 if that's something that you really do want to explore.
Yeah.
From
I
a-
can see- I
Because
see-
if we, like, if we just pull back a little bit and look at even the garage space requirements, like that seems like such a small thing and that we should just be doing that, but it does take a lot of coordination between departments and it does take some time to go through decision makers and get that approved. And that's
Yeah.
and this, I would say, is even larger than what we're looking at with even garage space requirements.
I hear you.
It
It takes staff time. And so from that standpoint, it perhaps needs to be voted upon. I understand.
So 6, I can see maybe as like a general operational component. I mean, if that's the one, but
Yeah.
I feel like the rental protection one would need to be a separate item.
On number 5, it's kind of cut off by the video. What does it say to?
Maybe I can reduce the size.
To building owners in Menlo Park.
Can I give you an eye test now?
Permits, is that just specifically for EPOP house?
That's a good question.
I think you're focusing more, yeah.
It was for same location water heater replacements.
Yeah.
Great.
And this may be a small point, but I think I asked this last session, I don't know if we had the answer, was how many residents we have the email address of. And I'm wondering if in this outreach program, whether it's a separate line item, whatever, if we're gonna physically mail mailers, that we should have some call to action to get the email addresses of our residents, because it's gonna make communication with residents on these topics going forward a lot easier. And I don't know where we stand on, whether the city has email addresses.
We do have we have a lot of emails, and I know PCE does as well through their billing platform.
Okay, if we do, great, if not, I would just add that as, if we're gonna send out mailers, we know everybody's mailing address.
Yes.
And so you send the mailer out, if there's some call to action to actually register, so that we then have your email, I mean, it's just. We ought to get 100%
It seems like it would
coverage.
be, cheaper if we had everybody's email.
Exactly.
Okay, so is that a proposal here?
I mean, I think it's really a sub bullet of, if we're gonna
Marketing.
put mailers out, the mailer should have a call to action. I think that's something we need to vote on.
Maybe a sub bullet of number 4, just to capture the idea.
One other thing on, well, I'll wait till you're done with that edit on number 4. There's one more big category after this that I'll let John take the lead on, but I also had a potential edit to number 2.
Well, that's not the point I was making. The point I was making is if we don't have email addresses for everybody,
Oh,
and
okay.
we're gonna use a mailer, a print mailer, let's use that print mailer to collect email addresses from all residents.
Okay.
Very perfect.
Yeah, too.
Facilitate ongoing communication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
One potential edit to number 2, I want to see what you guys think. Going with the assumption that most of the emissions from the commercial sector are coming from the life sciences buildings, and I know we don't know that, so it's an assumption. I just would want to make sure that number 2 would encapsulate all commercial buildings, but not exclude life sciences. Make sure that life sciences are included in that effort.
Are you saying even more than that, saying with an emphasis on life science buildings, or if we know that life science buildings are higher?
I would say with an emphasis on the commercial buildings that have the largest emissions.
Okay,
And then we might put e.g. life sciences.
yeah.
And I mean, just to clarify, I'm not sure if life science buildings are the largest emitter, but I don't think they're not.
No, I'm saying, you sure, we don't know.
Don't know.
Yes, we don't know.
You can put a
That might
question
be-
mark after it.
But I'm sure there's probably research out there and
Yeah.
compares.
I think it came up in another meeting or call, somebody had, maybe it was someone, one of the folks in PCE were on the call. I don't know, but yeah, I think that you're right, Angela, the goal should be, focus on where the emissions are the highest, and if it happens to be life sciences, great, if it's not, identify what commercial buildings are.
And
Do you
then-
have another?
Well, the last one that we had it as a subcommittee, I believe, number 8, I guess, I'll let John take the lead on, and a carbon tax or a methane tax. And I will say too, that I think it's important for us to clarify as we suggest this, that I see this as being very different than the UUT, which was much more general and focused on a number of different utilities, not just gas usage. And this would be a much more targeted tax. But anyways, John, you'll do it justice. I'll let you take the lead on that one.
Yeah, well, it kind of ties in with the idea of having a reach code, a burnout ordinance. I've heard like people are against unfunded mandates. So if we're making someone do something, we should help them do it financially. So I just had the idea that there should be a funded mandate. So part of people do that, we help them get it done. City of Boulder has a climate tax. And I don't know how long it took them to get that in place, but essentially, residents pay a tax and the money goes towards climate mitigation or climate adaptation. So they use a lot of money towards, home hardening, against wildfire risks, being in Boulder, Colorado. But they also take some of that money and use it towards mitigation, electrification.
Well, what's?
So if we sort of did it, what's that?
But what's tax?
Well, so I'm not a tax expert, but I would just say, let's explore ways that we can develop a tax that is very progressive, equitable, spreads the tax amongst different entities. It could be a hotel tax, it could be a residential tax, it could be a gasoline tax. I mean, let's just look at different ways to come up with a tax that, the city could use that revenue to help fund this requirement to electrify. Again, it could take any number of forms, and we're just brainstorming here, so just an idea, and that money, whereas Boulder uses it for wildfire protection, we could use it for sea level rise or flooding, or the climate impacts that we're feeling here, to help our residents with that. So, but it comes under more of like how do we finance some of these ideas? And so the tax is one idea. Another idea is that the city can look at more of the way they do their budgeting and do more of a priority-based budgeting. So they really look at what are the city priorities? How does our budget help us achieve those goals? There's a city of Pittsburgh does this way of budgeting, and they've uncovered 15% more financial resources. And with a city that like ours that is facing budget deficits, if we could just look at the whole way the city does budgeting, it could free up some money and it could also direct money towards the things we really care about. And then the other idea, just to bring money towards this is, again, I believe development on the Bayfront has to pay an offset for the gas emissions that they create. Where does how much money are they paying? Where does it go? If it's going to some organization that says, don't cut down those trees, well, that doesn't really help us offset emissions. But if we could take that money and give it to our residents to electrify their buildings or their homes, then that's really offsetting emissions, in my opinion. So I think there's 3 different buckets, and maybe there's more that I'm not thinking of, that we could explore to help fund these code changes or whatnot.
Sorry, I think I missed the one where you talked about the East Coast budget process.
Oh, I just call it priority-based budgeting.
But doesn't the city already do that?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
We do, yeah, and we do that with our capital improvement plan as well. But I think it's something, you know, that's again, kind of over the next few months, understand what we do, like what you're potentially envisioning.
And my understanding is when they go through the budgeting process, they look at every line item and they say, how does this money contribute to our city's goal? And so it can really free up some resources that way and direct it in the best way possible.
For number 8, we started the conversation with like a carbon or a methane tax, and then in your comments, it became broader. So are we looking at 2 possible options?
Or is 8 a sub bullet of?
I think it's one tax that that the city decides.
Okay, so just a
what's-
tax,
What's the,
maybe it's,
yeah,
Well, I would put a sub bullet or, for example, carbon tax.
I really like the idea.
I like the idea of tax. Overall, it makes sense, but what makes real sense is the people who are laggards, because this is externalities, right? This is economics, is when people consume resources or have an economic impact and they're not being held accountable for it, they'll just continue to do it.
Exactly.
So what I really like about the carbon tax is, okay, you don't want to electrify, fine.
Yeah.
You know, the component of your utility bill that is gas is gonna get a tax.
I like that too.
it has to be equitable and progressive. We can't penalize folks that can't afford that penalty. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Okay, so maybe we make a comment there.
Right.
Cool. And we can also say consider other taxes. Maybe so, equitable and progressive. I had a related one to this whole tax raising money, considering bonds to pay for this. Did you all building decarb people have anything else to add? I have a couple of other ideas, but I want to make sure we hear all yours first.
Well, there were a bunch, because we tried to, it may not look like it, we tried to pare it
In
down.
the words of Catherine Hayhoe, there's no silver bullet, but there's silver buckshot. So there's all these different things we need to
Yeah,
address.
I guess one thing that we did say is if we try to do too much, we may not make progress. So
Yeah.
exactly.
we would advocate trying to get a shorter list of higher impact things.
Good.
But that's what the brainstorming is, right? We're gonna
Yeah, we're
throw out ideas and then we're all gonna figure out, I don't know, in the spring, what we really want to recommend to the
Yeah.
city council, right?
And that may take some analysis.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think at this point, maybe we can hear from Jeff and I.
Yeah.
Any other ideas? And then we can vote and break and then come back and discuss.
Jeff's got a full page there.
I have a few ideas too.
Gone on to the other page.
All right, so so something that hasn't been mentioned yet, this came from an idea from one of our committed and really engaged residents in decarbonization. He thought maybe we should consider doing like, he didn't use this word, but pilot. So pilot was my idea, but like neighborhood by neighborhood or block by block, like find a group of people who are willing to go fully electric and then work with PG&E to like get the whole thing shut down. Because he had shared his experience of how difficult it was to have the gas meter removed and to have the gas cut off at the street, like months and months of back and forth between PG&E and the city. He's like, this is not sustainable. But if we decide, like if one whole street wants to do it and everybody commits, maybe we find some funding.
You could tie a bulk buy program to that too.
Exactly. And or the direct install, they just have everyone like do it, make it a big thing, and then we'll learn from it too. Okay, I think that's sufficient. Okay. Yeah, okay. I think this is kind of related to the commercial piece, which is up above, but maybe a specific area. This came out of conversation with one of our city council members, was electrifying community institutions like schools, like really focusing there and have it be a big thing and information goes out with all the kids to their homes and then their parents are like, oh, maybe we should get on the bandwagon. Yeah, so just really helping in that area. And so maybe it's schools, maybe it's also like any other community institution, like a university, especially if it was public. or retirement facilities, that kind of thing. Maybe even like key grocery stores or like key restaurants, like those key people who, like everyone goes to that place. Yes, influencers and institutions.
I will
Um,
say that I do know that Menlo Spark is currently working with the Menlo Park City School District, which has expressed some, I will stay still tentative, but enthusiasm about decarbonizing their buildings, and helping them find good resources to do that. That's
setting
just
up
one
some-
public school system.
It's the reaffirmation of that we're setting up a separate conversation, because I was in a meeting with the superintendent of the district. And she also pulled me aside, and Nancy, that was the thing I looped you
Yeah.
into, so I think they could be a good example for Ravenswood and other areas as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Excellent. So those were my two ideas that weren't already shared. I had more, but I feel like this is a good list. Over to you, Vice Chair.
Okay. So I think I wanted to go last because I was hoping some of the things I was thinking about would emerge, and a lot of them did. Maybe Rebecca, would you mind flipping over to the presentation, page D227, one of the charts? So I have I can send this to you as well if you can't capture it.
Which chart is it? Was it in the additional? I'm sorry.
270.
I don't have it labeled on here.
Oh,
The number
going up. Not, yeah, keep going forward, it's like page,
In the beginning or in
yeah,
the end?
beginning. Yeah.
Okay,
I can show it to you. There you go. The one before the pie chart,
okay.
about 6. So I was worried this wouldn't come up, but I think Brian brought it up. Commissioner Pickle brought it up and others. I would say for me, there's 3 frames I think we have to look at. And the brainstorming is a perfect example of frame number 1, which is focus. I think if we don't focus, the second frame is gonna eat our lunch, which is time, which is a 5-year window. I know we have more than 5 years, but let's assume, 5 years and we're done. So if you multiply the focus times the time times the pace, because Rebecca brought up this point about the garage example and small things and such, so things take longer than we expect. So when you take those frames, focus, time, and pace, unless I'm reading the data wrong, I'm worried that we'll end up too scattered. And here's what the data is telling me, that focus is, I think if we're not careful, we could go down a path of 10 times the outreach and effort for half the impact. And all I mean by that is residential in its entirety is hovering around 35. Commercials, twice that. For a 10th of the number of buildings.
Great point.
So my first piece of this is, I think we need a 3-year focus. Let's chew up 3 years out of our 5 years. Because here's the other thing, Rebecca, if you go to the second one, look at how many more residential buildings there are in commercial. Yeah. So keep that in the back of your mind, bang for your buck, but in real data numbers that the city's collected, 10x the outreach, that number is 10x, more than 10x. 10x the outreach and effort for half the impact in the emissions. So I think commercial has to get 3 years out of our 5 years. You can flip over if you want to take notes, Rebecca, but I think in a 3-year focus, 861 is the number. And what I mean by that is we solve the 861. We can still do a little bit, but if we take a shotgun approach, I think we're going to lose. And so for me, getting a further breakdown of data to understand the 861, and some of that's in backup, right? Because it goes into like, this is government building, this is a school. Understanding and focusing on the 861, I would argue, is point number one in our 3-year focus. You brought up the second one, so I wanted to go last. Who owns those? What's the contact list? There are too many do not knows in some of these conversations. So too many we don't know, too many we don't know about who owns which buildings. Are they vacant? Are they in use? Are they an office? Are they a storefront? So the second thing is, I'd say we need an owner's contact list so we can reach those people. With,
Can I pause you just for
Yeah.
purposes of this? To me, these seem like specific strategies under number 2.
no, 'cause I
No,
don't think, because I'll come to that. No. They're not.
they're not. They're specific other things.
Yes.
Okay, are we capturing it the way you want it to be here?
Yes.
Continue on,
Except,
please.
except for the second one, which is, so part one is what you have there, Rebecca, 861. Part 2 of the 3-year plan would be owner's contact list, similar to what Brian said about.
And you want that as a separate number?
I'm outlining a 5-step kind of plan
Okay,
for the 3 years. So part
So
one.
it's gonna be simple, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and actually 861 versus the other is a symbol as well. So to me, 3 years focusing on commercial gets us over that 10x the effort for half the impact problem that I see. So 861 is point number one, year one, obtain email addresses, because that's gonna drive high touch building by building outreach. And I think 861 is a doable number. Let's say 20% of those are vacant, that number gets smaller. Let's say that one property owner owns 10 of those, that number gets smaller and smaller, and it's much more manageable.
One side question to this is, are there economic incentive for commercial commensurate with what we're seeing and hearing about for residential?
Well, I'll come to that piece as well, because I was thinking about that. So I think the third. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say the answer to that, I believe, is no, but please continue, Jeff. This is great.
But I think the third part is how electrified are they today? So I'd be willing to bet that if I asked the question, how electrified are these commercial buildings today? If I ask the question, when is a building considered 100% electrified? I'd probably get a variety of answers. Maybe not, but I'd hope we come to a singular definition of, hey, it's not, and not that it's a zero emission thing. It's more like the thing we were talking about with residential. If you replace the heat pump, if you replace this, if you put this in, if you put that in, if you put insulation in, you fortify, whatever the term is, this is the definition of 100% electrified. Because then we can assess the number of buildings, the number that are 100% electrified, and how far we have to go. So to me, that's part number 3. And it needs a common definition. So if you could capture that as well, Rebecca, just maybe dash common definition.
or sewer, I think it's define what full electrification is.
Yeah, what does that mean for a commercial building? And hopefully we can categorize it enough that it's like 5 things. Because that leads into what Brian was saying for step 4 for me is carrots not good. So
Can I
I,
pause you for a second? 'Cause I
Yeah,
want to make sure
sure.
Rebecca's
Okay.
captured what you have.
Yeah.
Listen,
yes, I think so.
she's not yet.
Oh.
I think she's
Oh.
thinking. No,
No,
Okay, very good.
that's perfect.
okay, common definition.
Yeah, I think we have lots of different definitions, but when do we get to check the box and go, this building is electrified?
Good enough.
Fourth one goes back to what Brian's saying is, the one part that I disagree with and why I was telling Nancy that I don't think regulations is the play. I'm worried because I also spent more time with city council members this weekend. I know a few of them been talking, and I love carrots, not sticks, and I've been in enough city council meetings to know. Love them all, but we got a carrots, not sticks kind of group in general, I think. So I want to navigate some of that because I worry if we put all our eggs in one basket about regulation, then we're taking our one shot, and what if we don't get it? Then are we waiting 2 more years, or 3 more years? So I'm trying to mitigate what I think might be some of the political reality. So 4 is, how do we collect all the pieces that make this simpler for commercial? Permits, incentives, vendors, guides, going out and understanding the objectives. I don't know what to call that, but it's almost like the electrification package.
Like the turnkey solution.
It's sort of turnkey solution, but I'd be surprised if this thing from PC ends up being truly turnkey. I'd hope so, but like, whatever that ends up being, have it all in one place, because what I hear time and time again, no matter who's electrifying, is they go in with the marketing and the promise of all this stuff, but the reality is, and all of you've gone through a version of this, the reality is it's a 10x pain in the tail more than what the marketing tells you it is, because you gotta find a vendor, it takes 9 months. So I just think we have to be super, how do I say this? If we're really gonna achieve parts of this, we can't believe the hype. Because I think everybody is living today, probably for the next 3 years, the marketing and the reality are far different. And I don't see that exponentially improving in 6 months. And I don't see a white knight coming in with a turnkey solution that solves that either. I could be wrong, but it's been old.
I'll give you a countervailing personal experience, and I don't know, it may be more true in commercial, but I did heat pump and HVAC. And I found the reality exactly matched the market. There was no big difference,
But that's residential, right?
residential. Yeah, what I'm saying, it may not be true.
I think if we follow this in order and we go commercial, I'd be surprised if that same thing is difficult.
But I think that the little that I know about commercial entities, they often have a facilities department who are experts in buildings and they're managing this kind of stuff. Whereas a lot of homeowners, we're like, I don't even know where my water heater is or how it works. So
Yeah, do I
it's a
have
huge
one?
learning
Yeah,
curve,
yeah.
whereas they probably have someone thinking about this.
I'd love
At
to
least
be
a little
wrong.
bit.
No, it's cool. I would totally love to be wrong. So I just think that.
But I think making it as easy for them as possible
Yeah,
is really,
that's really the heart of it.
yeah,
is
I'm totally down.
super simplification. And then the last one, and then the fifth one is track and communicate. So it's this idea of, all right, we got 861 in year 1. How many of the 861, or however often we do it, how many of the 861 are 50% electrified, 75%, 100%? It's this granularity I'm super impressed that we have the data that we have so far. So now that gives us the ability to go further and say, we have a common definition of electrification. And we can percentagize that. So a building is 50% electrified. Great. How many more do we have to go? And I know I keep harping about this counting thing. That's probably going to be one of the harder things to do is the owner's list. The owner's list and the percentage of electrification will be the hard parts. But I'd rather do that for 861 buildings than for 9,448. Because I think if we do the outreach and we scatter it to 10,000 residents or 10,000 buildings, it's going to take us 15 years. So anyway, I wanted to be super specific in a recommendation because I'm worried we're gonna approach this with a shotgun and we're just not gonna get there.
Well, to your point, Jeff, too, I mean, I think other cities are trying to tackle this. And from I know from Berkeley, and I think there's another city up the peninsula that's doing this as well, which is for the commercial sector that they voluntarily report their usage. And I think starting from that kind of stuff, then the city would take it a step further to kind of then create energy budgets.
Yeah.
So that way it motivates to reduce their emissions.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like almost a 3-year process in itself, if you're looking at trying to move the needle with commercial. And that's, so like I said, there's precedents in other cities that have done that across California. I don't know how well it works. It'll be interesting to see, like, once they get past the voluntary reporting stage, like when they start saying, like, you need to reduce 25% of your GHG emissions, and how they enforce that.
And I think that part, and I forgot to say that, I think if we do these pieces, we can still do number two. But I just wouldn't recommend we put all our, to Angela's point, I think if we get super organized. And we get our, because the other thing I'm worried about is 3 staff members and a budget deficit. That's the reality of what we're talking about. So unless I've read the data wrong, 861 feels to me like the way to go. And then come back with some building regulations once we've made some progress and we've showed we've doubled down on commercial. I think actually number 2 becomes easier because we have super meaningful data to sort of show the city council.
And especially if they start saving money potentially.
Here's the thing, if we say, hey, we put this effort in over a 3-year period or over, but we've got 2 gaps that we can't seem to solve. We can't seem to solve, I don't know, water heaters and whatever it is, then the codes become much more specific to the need to 100% electrify. So those 2 things, my recommendation plus the regulations kind of go hand in hand, but I don't know that we'll be able to pass. Here's a blanket regulation about building electrification. I just don't know that we have the political will out there to do that, but a specific set to address a specific plan.
Okay,
So
are you complete?
I think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Rebecca, did you have any other ideas you wanted to add?
So I did add one that triggered my thinking about an energy budget for the commercial sector.
Okay.
What does that mean?
So that just, so with the other cities that have been doing this, and again, I think Berkeley's been doing it for quite a while, they haven't gotten to kind of a regulation type part, but they have folks reporting how much natural gas they're using. I think it is a requirement. And I want to say maybe it's Brisbane that's doing this as well. Because they were having kind of a little bit of a conflict with getting the reach codes for new construction for commercial. So this is potentially like an alternative pathway to get reductions, greenhouse gas reductions from the commercial sector. But yeah, you essentially, you're a business, you're reporting, how many therms you're using. It also shows you when you're reporting how much GHG emissions result from that. So I think the idea is first educate and if show businesses like, okay, you're using this much, and then kind of maybe more education about you can switch, right? That'll reduce your emissions, and then potentially going into a requirement of you need to reduce your emissions 25% by a certain year. We don't care how you do it, but you need to, figure it out.
But except for that last part, could I just ask a question? Because I actually love that, because that the voluntary reporting could also help us solve one of the trickier parts of what I'm outlining in 4C, which is define how much of the commercial building is electrified. So some of the voluntary reporting is, hey, these are the 5 things. Which of these have you done in your commercial building? Not only the output of the emissions, but we could find out through voluntary reporting. We could find out, oh, well, they've done 1, 3, and 5, and they haven't done 2. They've done like insulation, heat pump. I forget in a commercial building all of those. But if we have a common definition, then the voluntary reporting really fits well with that. Because then imagine we could go back to the city and go, nobody's doing X in commercial buildings. We need a reach code modification that helps with that potentially. It's super specific.
Okay. Okay, so I guess I kind of have a process question. The original idea I had, I was imagining that we would have a lot more ideas to vote on, and then it would get narrowed down, but this seems a little bit more narrowed down than what I was originally anticipating. Oh, that's not true. There is still.
Okay,
Okay,
I think it's good.
okay.
Good enough.
So, the idea was that we'd have a certain number that each of us could say, I think 1, 4, and 7 are the top priorities. So how many do we want to vote on? We have 15. Do we want to have 3 votes or 4 votes each? 5? What seems like the right number?
Well, I guess it feels like, how long would staff like the list to be when we're said and done? I mean, I suppose some are bulkier work items than others, but that might help dictate how many votes we might get.
And yeah, an alternative too is the subcommittee can go through this list this? I mean, because we don't have all the commissioners here either, so that makes it a little hard.
That's true.
It's true.
I mean, because we could stop here and then staff and the subcommittee could go off and explore a little bit further.
We can bring it back next month.
Yeah,
We have an October meeting scheduled.
yeah.
Maybe it's like a quicker item or.
Yeah, I guess it's, like, I'm not on the subcommittee, so what would be most helpful for you and staff to go off and figure out next steps?
So that we don't have to here, I think we could probably turn this into a voting tool, Google voting tool, but here, whatever. And asynchronously get input from every ranking, by whatever ranking, points or votes or whatever. And then that could inform the meeting have October.
Yeah, I think our meeting is the beginning of October though, so we'd have to do the voting at the public meeting, which is October 18th.
Oh, that needs to be in public.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't, I mean, you've got a good running list.
Why is-
Our subcommittee meetings next week.
Right,
Or
why does
not
that
really.
be public?
Because we're government.
Yeah, it's a Brown Act. Like if you're working together as a group with more than 3 commissioners, then it becomes kind of it becomes a meeting. It's tricky. Which is still, I think staff can meet with the subcommittee, because there's a lot to already go through right
Right.
now.
Yeah.
And then we can briefly say, like, here was a list we came up with in September, here's how it's been slightly modified. And then we can get the other commissioners' ideas and then potentially do.
A voting next time.
Can we
Yeah.
share the list of ideas for the other
Yeah.
committee members now? And,
Yeah.
like, just in the Google Doc and let them add to it?
We can look at the add to it, but we can share the information so that they know. No,
Violates the Brown Act.
because somebody may want to make comment or hear how that decision came to be.
I know, it's so like coming from, I'm like, does government get anything done?
Yeah.
But I think what we can do is maybe what we do now is we say, like, with this quorum of people that maybe we vote to say, like, these seem like the most important
Okay.
to flesh out, whatever that, someone can make a motion. And then we can conclude on this piece for now, if that would work.
So
for
one,
those of you.
I would like for further discussion and clarification before we rank them is, Jeff, I completely agree with you that going after commercial is the right thing to do. But I do worry about if we're not gonna impose mandates and regulations, then it has to be financially motivated. Good corporations aren't gonna do this out of the goodness of their heart, and I do sense that right now there's a disconnect in incentives at the federal, state, local level for residential versus commercial. But here, the question is, how do we get the incentives? Your point number, D, 4D, incentives. Incentive packages, like, where's that money coming from?
So let me play it back, because I think it's gonna, without sort of getting weird about subcommittees versus a full group.
Okay.
I suspect if staff went off and investigated that specifically, they'd learn similar to what we learned in the EV discussion. Is if you add this and this,
Backing up.
if you back them up, the PCE discussion, that we could get 90% of the way there.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
that's
that'd be
where.
great, if that's true. Well, all I'm saying is, right now, for me, to rank these.
Yeah.
An important part of item number 4 is, are there sufficient economic incentives? The city doesn't have to come up with the dollars.
Totally, and that's exactly what I meant by that is the phrase I use is there are too many we don't knows in the commercial space, but we're locked into this 10x the effort for half the impact.
So
It worries me that we don't know more about.
So maybe the right thing for the subcommittee working with the staff is to identify the missing pieces of information for these various things. To help us decide how to, like, what are the questions that we would need to answer in order to rank them?
Yeah.
And I don't know, there are other ones where there's more information required in order for us to rank them. That's the one that just stuck out for me. Because, having seen the data, I absolutely agree with point number 4. What I would hate to do is then put all of our effort in number 4 and find out without regulatory mandates, nobody's gonna do it, because there's no economic incentive for them to do it.
And related to that, I think it would be easier politically to have mandates for commercial buildings than for residential. Because it's a business expense. At the end of the day, you write it off, not the same for homeowners where it's coming out of after-tax dollars.
But I agree with the point is, I tend to be more data driven in my old age for some reason, I don't know why. But it's
Because
one of
we've all
those,
gotten burned.
I guess, yeah. It's just, if we use the 5-year as the time, that's why I put that frame in there of time. Okay, so if time and pace are 2 frames, then I would rather get the data for commercial, because I think the first frame around focus, it's the 10x of the outreach for half the impact worries me, because otherwise, I think if we're scattered, then our time frame turns into 15 years, not 5.
I think in a complement to that is, I do see PCE going after residential with the messaging and incentives for residential. So, where is the city in a better position to have an impact than other organizations?
It's a good point, actually. It's sort of the EV point we were making the other day is on EV adoption for consumers. I don't know that the city should do a lot, because there are lots of people over there. But charging infrastructure, like, only the city can really sort that out. This might be the same kind of problem is residential, there's enough, we just collect a bunch of stuff and get it in people's hands. But most of the city's effort is on the stuff that only the city can do, which is influence commercial. Which is
Hey,
not a-
Angela has her hand up, so
Oh,
let's
sorry.
hear that.
Well, that's okay, Jeff, you can finish.
No, that's what I was trying to say is it might be an equivalent problem of what can only the city do because it's the city, and attacking the problem around commercial feels more doable by the city than trying to reach 9,500 residents when there are lots of other people trying to reach those 9,500 residents.
Well,
So-
Yeah.
I have a thing after. So Angela, you go and then I'll go.
No, I mean, there's definitely less onboarding, that's for sure, right? So, agree that there's, right, more emissions reduction potential per effort. I would just say, generally speaking, and maybe this is a deeper conversation that we could have in October, I wouldn't necessarily discount political appetite. I think once upon a time, and this has shifted a little bit since Berkeley, but once upon a time, there was political appetite at what I believe to be a potential majority level on council to do reach codes. And then because of what happened with the city of Berkeley and the fossil fuel lobby, we never ended up having this robust study session where we could engage the public on the topic and discuss it. And since then, I think, other concerns have emerged that we could address. So I think we could get it back. And I think that there very well could also be political appetite to do this at the commercial level. And I don't want to just discount that. I definitely think that as an advisory body, we need to weigh the political piece. We also need to advise on what's going to get the city to reach its goal by 2030. So anyways, I just don't want to run too far away from the regulatory piece as we contemplate all of this. I'm done.
And Angela, just to clarify, I just wanted to say, I think I wanted to backtrack a half step to say, I just didn't want to put all our eggs in that basket, right?
Here you
I
go.
feel like that's a one shot and you make it and then you take another shot 3 years later and then
Yeah.
there's your 5 years and you're done. So
Yeah.
I feel like they could actually be really complementary. If we could sprint and get a lot done on that number 4
Mhm.
and really focus in, then I think it gives us a lot more ammunition for your number 2 around commercial building regulations.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, I have one thing to add, because I feel like what's happening right now is we're all kind of making our pitch for how we're gonna vote. And we're gonna vote tonight.
Okay,
That's
Great.
my proposal.
okay,
That's what we're gonna do, because I'm the chair.
okay.
And my pitch is, in terms of things that only the city can do, is I think the city has a lot of leverage around multifamily units as well. And I think we should consider that. Because there's a lot for residential homeowners a lot, but there's not as much for multifamily, and I think maybe the city could focus there, like with the, how was it? Number 5, explore a turnkey partner to electrify existing multifamily buildings.
Can
And
I,
if 40% of our residential buildings or 40% of our population live in multifamily units,
It's actually more. It's 40% of the parcels, which means probably even
Okay.
more than 40.
No, it's 40, that data point is the units.
Okay.
so 40%. And because I think there's a piece that we are not talking about here in terms of health and safety that also is very good for people who are living in multifamily units. So,
can I just ask a strange question though, just because I'm not. And maybe it's to both. What influence does the city have over multifamily?
well, I think the reach codes, the regulations,
Okay, so the reach codes,
they can say for
Would be
existing
different.
buildings, like we have to, you
no,
know,
but what I'm trying to parse out of my head is. Like over commercial, I feel like the city has really high influence. And then over residential, it feels a lot less. So what we're kind of tiering
can I
is,
just pause? Is that true?
yeah, that's what I'm trying to parse out.
Does the city
is
have more or less influence in those areas?
Commercial, then multifamily, then residential, or is,
Just have reach codes. I mean, and they can be,
right?
you know, targeted to these different groups, but the city can.
Reach codes, yeah, there's influence across all the
Okay.
sectors equally for that, but as far as, yeah, influencing, you know, multifamily is a little bit difficult because they don't always take on new projects, that
So
would
they hard
trigger,
for
you know.
new,
Yeah.
right, or the remodel.
And commercial, I mean, it's something to be explored. I don't know how much influence we have with either one of those.
Yeah.
I think there's also the city council, you want to get reelected residents or their voting base, right? And residents that live in multifamily are going to be making these decisions, they're property owners. And that's a much smaller voting block. So if you want to do mandates, I would say the easiest place to do mandates is corporate.
Yeah,
The second would be multifamily,
Agreed.
and last will be residential.
agreed, 100%. Okay, let's go to John, and then maybe we vote.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that my vision for a burnout ordinance encompassed all buildings.
Okay.
So we could craft an ordinance that has different means of getting to zero emissions based on the building type. So a residential might just be a burnout ordinance. When you have a water heater, you replace it with electric. For larger commercial buildings, it could be more energy-based or emission-based or whatever's legally feasible in order to get those buildings down to zero by 2030. I mean, that's the goal. We need every building 95% by 2030. So I totally appreciate what you're saying, Jeff, and we need to go after like the big ticket items and the ones that may be easier. But it's kind of a yes and, like, we need all this.
Yeah,
And a reach code that encompasses everything is one method to attack all of it.
yeah, it's a question of, I'm not trying to say. We leave out parts, because you're right, the burnout thing, if it applies to all building types, then we need it because it's 20 more years of polluting without it, right? So I didn't mean that to be exclusionary as much as to say, if we try to do everything all together at once, then it's 20 years in the future and we're still not gonna be there.
I think it's important though, point number one though, to reinforce that these, because I was thinking about the reach codes about residential, I wasn't necessarily thinking about commercial, so.
Yeah.
To your point, I think we should probably put in point number one, that this is for all building types. Oh, you know, or I guess that's it. Did you
Magic.
just do that?
Yeah, I just.
Okay. Never mind.
Great minds, I think, like, okay,
Good.
so here's my proposal for how we proceed,
Okay.
is that, we will take during the break, we'll take like a, say, 5-10 minute break.
Okay.
And we will, take a look at this, and everyone can have up to 5 votes. And actually, so if we're ranking, so if you have 5 points, you know, you could put them all in number 1.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we each get 5 points.
you each get 5 points and you say where you want them to go.
Yeah.
And maybe you slide a piece of paper to Rebecca, you could use the back of your thing, and I don't know, Angela, maybe you could text her or something. And then Rebecca can tally it up,
Yeah.
and we'll see where we're at.
But does that have to be private, or, because we could just go number one, how many?
It was more to also combine a break with it, and just have like a little pause in our whole
Trying to
thing.
put this all on one screen, sorry. Jeff.
And, because we could make it public, but I think we've been at this for
There we
2
go, I
hours.
think I got it, okay.
So maybe we can consider, maybe what we do is take a look at this over the next,
There you
say, like 8 minutes. We'll reconvene at 8:10.
Yeah.
And then we can each share our.
Can I add two more, yes?
Oh, there's not enough room on the page.
One idea was the bulk buy program. Could a city help facilitate that? And maybe that ties in with Nancy's idea of kind of going block by block.
Number 14.
But I just want to make sure the bulk buy program concept is in there. And then the other idea was, maybe you already know this, Rebecca, but I talked to somebody at the Air Quality Management District, and one thing that they suggested that would help cities help the air district, implement its rules, is to have the permitting desk be sort of like an education point for residents, and making sure that when people come to the desk for a permit, that they are sort of educated on the watt diet, making sure that you can that you can electrify on 100 amps in many cases, and ways to do it. And then also the idea of sort of, I don't know if it's a requirement or a suggestion, but that when someone goes to the permit desk, they are encouraged to do a whole home electrification plan at that point. That would also get people going in the right direction towards electrification.
Okay, great. So let us consider how we want to spend our 5 points. We'll reconvene at 8:10, and then we can publicly share how we want to share our points. Yeah,
Sounds good. How many
Okay.
points do we get?
Five.
Five.
5 minutes.
Can I just clarify as I'm thinking through, like, so number one, so if, in my situation, if I were interested in including all buildings, including commercial, I could vote for number one and assume that commercial is implicitly included in that, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, see you all in 7 minutes.
Okay. Well, what happened to the one Jeff's number? Did it go away?
Oh, I think she,
I moved it over so we can get it all on
okay,
one
it's just
page,
that- That's all the sub
just for now.
Oh, okay. You wanna, can you, what's the word? Shorten it so we can see,
See what,
shorten people's pictures. Oh, there we go.
I think,
Awesome.
sorry, should I be this movie, but,
So Angela, we're having cookies. What are you having?
Salad. Not nearly as exciting.
When you say unmuted, does that mean everyone can hear?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, just make sure.
Yeah.
All right, so just so everyone knows what we're doing, we're all considering our votes. How are you gonna, what were you thinking of?
Well, you're telling
Tally?
everybody's first and then I'll. Cause I don't have to keep
Okay.
changing the number here.
Yeah, I think you just put a parentheses next to each one with a total.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Or your piece of paper. I wrote on my clear notes.
Yeah. Okay, here's my vote. 2 points here, one.
All right. I'm going to try to hold these.
Oh, I'm supposed to text mine.
You can just let us know. Wait, let me first do this and then you can just tell us.
No, take your time.
Okay.
Brian, these are good.
Aren't they?
Mhm.
There were plenty more. In the fire bag full.
You brought cookies, Brian?
I did. Biscoff.
Oh,
I had
great.
Biscoff.
Thank you.
Oh, ginger snaps.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but I think they got a little bit of cinnamon in them too, don't they?
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
they
good.
They feel a little gingery.
Ginger, that's what.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, Angela, who of us are you seeing next so we can give you your thing?
I mean, which ones are my votes? Is that what you're saying?
No, more like your creative volcano. Like, are you planning on seeing your subcommittee members? So I can give this to them to give to you.
Who's gonna get it to you?
I'm sorry, I'm not following. What?
It's okay, we figured it out.
Okay,
We figured it out.
okay, good.
That little card that we picked at the beginning of the meeting, I wanted to get it to you. But I didn't know who would see you first.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, did I miss this as being a bond tax or bond?
I did, well,
Did I miss that?
I like
thought
the
I put it in
tax.
there.
Number 10 was the tax, but I kind of like the idea of just thinking about the tax or bonds.
I thought I
thinking
put the
about-
bond in here.
This is-
I don't see it now. Oh, there it is. Consider bonds. Okay.
They do bonds?
And do it 0.15. Is that what you're?
Oh,
0.0.
You do a half a vote.
No, you-
No votes.
no, it wasn't intended to be a
That's what
half.
we do it, half a.
I know.
I was hoping we could
Wait,
bundle
how are
all
you
the
tracking?
financial ones together and.
Me too, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Okay, but you're leaning toward the tax. Is
I
that
really like the methane tax idea. Like that.
okay?
But I'd be open to a bond.
When we have to.
Okay, I think I got yours.
Even just say, what's the city?
Yeah, I mean, that would be the next step to figure out like what's the best route.
Cause I think it still was unclear, I spent some time with him before, like I was going in, it was still unclear what they're gonna do. For the overall deficit.
Oh,
Who's been, the city,
right.
is it still $1 million? Or they go?
I think it's $1 million next year, I think it goes, well, I don't know.
Are they tapping into some reserves so
I
that's
think
only $1 million?
the amount.
So are you guys ranking these? So that what I'm seeing? Did I miss
So
that?
you get 5 points
No, I'm
to
just-
allocate,
I'm
and
just
so
putting
you
the
can say like number 1, 0 points, number 2, 3 points, number 3, 0
Oh.
points.
It's a popularity contest.
Yeah, so you
Oh
could
my
give
gosh, okay,
1 point, like if you want to put all 5 into one thing.
okay.
Really? Oh.
Oh.
I read mine now.
You did.
Yeah.
You can redo it.
Can I
Five
just
votes
say,
for
can I say
number
one thing
four.
one thing I'm struggling with, but I think I know where I'm gonna land, but I think what
Don't
I'm
mind.
struggling with a little bit is,
Kind of.
no matter which way we go and what priorities we choose, and there's more good ones here than I can select. I feel like I have to put rental protections there because it's such a big part of our community, and I feel like it needs to be a core value, and somehow I understand that it has to be on the list because we're prioritizing staff resources, and that's sort of the bottom line. But on the other hand, it feels like I'm kind of sort of ranking apples and oranges. I've like rental protections feels like an underlying value of how I would love to see that the city go about implementing any of this work. And then I'm also ranking methods to get there. So I'm struggling a little bit with that, and I'm just putting that out there.
I had a very similar struggle and I agree with you 100%.
But also,
what to
I
do about it.
recommend what we ought to think about, and this is why I was sort of here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is I think we ought to take another look at this as well and fold some things in. So like I would totally.
Well, that's what I was imagining. Like, once we voted, then we could figure out, like, maybe they kind of.
But even things that didn't necessarily get a lot of votes, could be folded into a larger strategy, right?
Yeah, so like the tax related one.
Yeah.
So if
So
it's
let-
3 people who voted for
I just
different
need
tax.
Angela.
ones, you aggregate
Angela?
into one.
Yeah, funding, it's like.
Do you have-
category.
Do you know how you want to allocate your 5
I should.
sticker votes?
I picked my 5, but then I didn't figure out how to allocate my points.
Are you just gonna give 1 to each of them then, or, because you,
Yeah, okay,
You
no,
have
I guess I'll give, oh, you're right, because I picked 5 things. I guess I'll just, oh, I don't know, it feels a little arbitrary, the point thing, but, thank you, sorry.
One for each.
Yeah, I'll just tell you the ones that,
Okay.
so like, for example, I guess,
Oh,
It's not showing, yeah, okay, not showing that.
you know, I'm gonna vote for number 9. I'm gonna give a point to number 9, even though nobody else has. But my hope is that that can be maybe subsumed under number 1, perhaps. I don't know. Again, it feels like an underlying value, not a policy tool. But number 7. Number 6. Number 5. And number 1. And then of course, because, you know, I can't just stop there. I have to just say, like, I actually really, I struggled to, like, I really like Jeff's suggestion of collecting all the data on the commercial buildings so that we can hone in on how to get the best value there. I'm less enthusiastic about spending 3 years on that. And but I don't want to disregard that, even though I didn't give a point to it. And I can't help but wonder if we were to get a burnout ordinance that included commercial in place, and that's number 1, which is what I voted for, could we deploy some of our partnerships, like with Menlo Spark, for example, to develop relationships with the highest emitting commercial building owners and approach them in that way. So that's sort of why I didn't vote for it, Jeff, is because I'm hoping we might be able to get there through another path, and because I felt limited by only having 5 votes.
well, and I'd also say three quick things, actually. I would recommend we consider combining 4 and 1, because to me, 4 is a little bit more of a kind of multi-layered plan. The 3 years is just arbitrary. I think I don't think we have to limit ourselves to 3 years. We could even take that out. I was just trying to not exclude residential by mentioning the 3 years and saying the whole 5 years has to be all about commercial. So I'd be fine taking 3 years out if everybody.
I think your 3 made it in already.
But I'm just saying,
The word.
it's the point of, the reason I said the first 3 years is because I would say the last 2 years we then shift to a more residential focus, but I don't want that to feel like.
Right, that it has to be, as Tom would say, sequential.
Right, I
Like,
feel
it could
like
happen at the same
It
time.
could happen at the same time, or I almost feel like we need to do that sort of first as the big swing, and then residential kind of follows it in parallel. The other thing is, I was gonna mention, I think Brian voted twice for number 4 and I voted once. I think there was an extra vote in there.
Number 4?
Brian said he voted for it twice, I voted for it once.
That was mine.
Which one? This one?
That's mine, yeah.
And what I'd like to do, if it's okay, I didn't realize.
Oh my gosh, hopefully I did this right then. Okay. This is yours, right, Jeff? So,
It's your thing, Jeff.
Because if you look at mine, I
didn't mean that the way it sounded.
yeah.
I put 2 points on number 4 and he put 1 point on number
So
4.
it should be at
Okay.
least a 3, but I would like to change my vote if it's okay, because I didn't realize we could double up points, so I'd like to vote for number 4 twice. And take my vote away from number.
Okay,
So two twos on there, there you go.
And then,
To take away
Where's
from number
13?
13. Because what I'd like to also consider as we consider this down the road is creating a funding category.
Yeah.
As opposed to each of us voting one type for a particular kind of funding.
John and I were saying that too. So maybe we, okay. Let's give Rebecca a chance to finish the counting and then we can proceed.
Yeah, so Brian voted for mine twice, I voted for it twice, and then you took away the extra.
I think that was
vote.
fine.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay. Okay, so just to make sure everyone is following what we're doing, it looks like there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas that this quorum of commissioners thinks is a priority. But what I'm also hearing is maybe an amendment around number 10 to be considered just like a general funding, consider possible funding sources, including a carbon tax,
Yes.
maybe bonds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
But, okay, do we see, since I'm the only one who voted for number 6, which is fine. Okay, never mind. I'm gonna scratch that thought. Okay, what to do then about the rental protections? Because I'm gonna be honest, I feel like it's just not okay to ignore that. I don't see any other way around it. I think that we, and when I say we, I mean, I guess, partners to the city have been talking about this with our Bellhaven community for quite some time, and it's,
I think we can just add it. I mean, we created the rules here, so.
Yeah.
I mean,
feel
yeah, we could
strong- I
add
feel
the ones
strongly
that-
too, Angela.
I do too, Angela.
Make it 6.
yeah,
Well, we
combine
could
it
add
somewhere.
the ones that have one vote.
it just can't go away.
I agree.
Well, what if?
well, why don't, if we all agree
There's
that this
six.
needs to be
There's
like,
10 then, and there's 10, if you even added the ones that have a one vote.
But what if we categorize, okay, so I'm not trying to complicate things, but if we're gonna cluster funding, why wouldn't we cluster policy as well? And then the rental thing becomes part of a because I think.
I
that-
just think policy
well,
is such a huge,
maybe there's
topic.
I don't know the good way to say it, but I'm trying to get to what Angela was saying about. Some of these things are more in the policy realm, some of them are more in the funding realm, some of them are more.
I just feel like there's an underlying or overlying factor of equity in
Yeah.
everything we do,
Yeah.
and rental protections fall in that category.
Yeah. and which is a,
It's like
Yeah,
a
is
value,
important.
right? It's a
And
value.
maybe that's the category that we and not.
yeah, okay. So.
I'm
Okay,
sorry, I'm just reorganizing the list really fast,
oh, great, thank
because
you.
I think,
Oh, I see.
You're bolding everything that got any votes.
yeah,
And then moving. Cool, thanks for getting us all organized.
I think this one goes into funding.
And like, to the earlier point, this is a kind of a 4-month process, so we have missing some commissioners tonight, so.
Yeah.
This is like a living, sort of document.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so then now we have
10.
10 things, so we narrowed it down a little bit.
Yeah.
And
I think we've even rank ordered ones. that we-
Yeah.
great, we have a sense for what is.
Oh, yeah, I could do that too, yeah.
oh,
Where did the rental protections piece end up? I can't see I can't see under not voted on. I'm just, oh wait, oh, there it
It's
is.
under-
It's in number 8. Yeah, okay, there it is. Sorry, it's small on my screen. I just couldn't see it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay, so,
So how do we get input from the other council members?
well, let's see. As I understand, we're gonna have this conversation today. And then the subcommittee and staff will go off and think further, and then it would come back to this body.
Okay.
So it can either, if we want to have it, we were talking about maybe a small item to get their input next month before you guys have figured everything out. So maybe there's a 2-step process, like a mini input next month, and then the broader conversation with the commission whenever you all are ready.
Okay, but we can't between now and the next,
Well, we can inform them about what we did.
but we can't ask them to.
I don't think so.
No,
Is
they
that
can,
true,
they can,
Rebecca?
yeah, they can vote next month at the public meeting.
Next month, yeah, they can't vote.
Okay,
Yeah, they can't do it before then.
okay,
Okay, all right.
great. So that will be an agenda item for next time, is to have them vote and they can see what we've
Okay,
voted on.
all right.
Okay, that feels good. Shall we? Yeah,
Oh, I was gonna ask, I know the exercise is about 2025 to 2030, but can we accelerate or recommend accelerating any of these into earlier date? Or is that sort of out of our?
Yeah, I think that's,
Okay.
I mean, because we are doing things already that are in the works. But yeah, it's good. Thank you for asking.
Let me ask you a different way, though. Could we not accelerate, but it's more like divide, that's what I was trying to get with the 3-year, 2-year, divide up the priorities, it's the wrong word, I don't mean prioritization, I just mean
Yeah,
sequencing, yeah, almost like, because I know it's not a linear thing, but if we have 5 years to spend, where would the bulk of staff time go in that 5-year period? As opposed to still, like, this is still gonna be a lot, and it still could be very shotgunny.
yeah. Well, my sense is that the team goes away, thinks about this and comes back with a more formal plan for us to discuss and vote on and goes to city council, and considering everything that we've been talking about and the need to focus so that we can actually make some progress. I don't think it's for us to decide in this room today what happens in the first or second half of the 5 years. That's my sense.
No,
Make a
but
recommendation. Ken.
yeah, I was just making the point that like, that would be one way to talk about John's acceleration, which is like, could we tackle this first? Because then the flow through to the second thing is actually faster. Because we've solved this thing first, and then that speeds up part 2 and part 3.
yeah. It's just the resourcing, right? So right now, we're working on the $4.5 million, getting that program up and running. Plus kind of going through these items as well and going through that process. So, yeah, I think, and then also permit streamlining, as we mentioned before too, and trying to move that along.
I wonder, before the subcommittee meets about this again, if there is a way to get, is there a quick way, there may not be, Rebecca, to hone in on a little bit more data with respect to the commercial buildings? Is some of that publicly available, or does that involve a staff request to the building department?
Let's
home.
probably not in time for our meeting in early October,
Yeah,
but it's something that we can
okay,
continue to work through.
yeah,
Angela, is there specific information that we want?
Well, there's specific information I would want, which is, I really would love to understand the offsets that the Bayfront developers are required. Is that a tiny number or is that a big number? Like, is that even, if it's a tiny number, then it's probably not something that we're gonna say, we really wanna do this. But if it's a big number and we could see the impact it would have on the community in a big way, then it's something we might push harder for. So I don't know the magnitude of that dollar value.
Yeah, and I think this is that's a really good conversation for our subcommittee meeting, but I'm happy to dive into.
Okay.
Because it's something that we've looked at internally as well, and just like, how do we get, there?
But Angela, did you have something you wanted?
I thought, gosh, if it's low hanging fruit to get emissions by commercial building or building sector, it might help us, it might inform our thinking a little bit more, but I don't know how easy or hard it is to get that.
Out of 700 or whatever it is, the top 10 represent, 70% of the emissions. That would be helpful to know.
I will mention one thing, that Silicon Valley Clean Energy does have a small and medium business program. It's provides $20,000 towards electrification for small businesses and smaller landlords. So just thinking about, maybe that's something we could suggest PCE if they do in our territory as well.
Yeah, I think these are gonna be good, dive deeper into like, who's the right partner? Is the city the right organization to implement this, or are we an influencer to other organizations?
Anything, you can put that back over, it's been the last, 3.
You're so good at this, Jeff.
Sorry,
No, thank you.
100 times.
All right,
Yeah.
so shall we, Do we need to take formal action on this?
No, I think it's
Okay.
basically direction.
Okay.
so.
Can
But
you
we'll,
share
we'll
that? Can
attach
you
it
share
to
that
the
us?
minutes.
How
Yeah,
do we get a copy?
yeah,
Okay.
we'll share it and attach it to the minutes so that way the public knows what was happening during
when
this
does
part of the
that get-
meeting.
Published. Does that not get published until the next, like a month from now?
Yeah, until after you approve the minutes, but I mean, we can still share this.
Yeah, if you could share it sooner rather than later, I think that would be helpful.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Great, moving on. Nice work, everyone. And everyone who's sticking with us from the public. All right, so agenda item D3 is approving the EQC work plan. And I think this is primarily like an administrative thing. As I understand it from Rebecca, all of the commissions were asked to put their work plans in this specific format.
Mhm.
Is there anything else? Just, I don't think there's any substantial changes. It's more a formatting situation. Is that right, Rebecca?
Right, yes. So, yeah, and so basically, you looked at the calendar that you approved in July as kind of the overall work plan for the year of all the topics you're gonna cover, who's in subcommittees. We updated that as well. Where did it go? I'm trying to find, oh, here it is. So this is, in case you haven't seen it, the work, so all commissions are gonna follow this similar work plan template. And so I did lift out some of the previous information from our old work plan template. And, I included things that I've heard or observed about, public engagement, participating in the meetings. So it's very short, it's super short, basically E7, but then attached to this is the calendar that you all approved, of all the topics that are being covered. And all the ones you want to still cover, but there's just not enough time to cover all of those.
Yeah.
And the actual subcommittees.
Okay, so any clarifying questions from our commission before we? Public comment. Is there any public comment?
Thank you, Chair Headley. So if there's any members of the public that would like to comment on this agenda item of approving the Environmental Quality Commission's annual work plan, you can use the raise hand feature next to your name and I'll be able to unmute your microphone. Okay, well, we don't have any more attendees.
Okay, great.
And there's nobody, so yeah, no public comments.
Okay, great. All right, so we can now open for discussion and or move to a motion.
Number 3.
Okay, yeah, thank you again, Jeff. Yes, I need you in my life.
Should be a magazine editor. It just
Good.
comes out, I mean, like a red whole thing.
Any other edits? No, I mean, it's
Otherwise-
great, like we wanted to. Good. All right, so if we're ready to make a motion, someone can,
I move to be approved since
okay,
presented.
Could I just ask a quick question before we second it? Maybe is number 6? Is that too fuzzy?
I think. Like,
What does that mean? Foster a public meeting environment inclusive of all members of the. I'm just not sure what that, I'm not sure what that means. I thought that was more about encouraging other people to join the EQC from different districts, but I could be wrong. I was just reading through this again to refresh, and number 6, just, I'm not 100% sure what that means.
I think it's, that we allow people to come here and participate via Zoom so that the entire spectrum of our community is represented in these meetings. That's my interpretation.
Well, this isn't new stuff. We're kind of already doing that,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's not. Okay.
I don't know, is there anything
Something
else?
we're already doing, should we just take it off? Is there any reason to
we
restate it?
could, yeah,
How did it get on?
it was part of the template that they had for the other commissions, so.
It doesn't seem like it hurts. It seems like this is a useful statement to remind ourselves that we.
Okay, I didn't realize it was a carryover from the reason the disconnect happened was I thought it was part of that discussion about how do we get more people from
I think,
like Bellhaven to be interested in the EQC
I
and
see.
join and become members. And
Oh,
so I was getting that mixed up with the previous contract. So,
Which might be more though, number 7, support the filling of openings on the commission.
yeah, that's partially when I read both of those, I didn't understand what number 6 meant. Yeah.
We don't still have an open position.
No.
No.
Okay, cool. But as we think about April.
Good job, everybody.
What's that?
Staying on.
Stay on.
Yes.
We're gonna like lure people to meetings with chocolate.
That's fostering, yes, okay.
Okay. Okay, any other edits or shall we go to it? I'll second the motion.
Okay,
All right.
Okay, so, and yeah, Commissioner Evans still, so we've got a motion to approve the Environmental Quality Commission's annual work plan. All those in favor, raise your hand. And Commissioner Evans. you could
Yes.
just be, yeah. Okay, it passes unanimously with everybody who is here and on Zoom. And we've got 2 commissioners absent, Commissioner Lynn and Pellegrini Yieldpart.
And then just in case you didn't catch it, the motion was from Commissioner Kissel and a second by Chair Headley. All right, reports and announcements. Are there any staff reports or announcements? And then we can go to the commissioners.
Reports and announcements. I'm sorry, thinking about the work plan and where it needs to go next. So the work plan will be presented to the city council with all the other commission work plans on September 26th. So there'll be a staff report. There's no need to give a presentation. Although I do know the commission did approve the chair's presentation to the city council as a report out. So we're looking at October 10th or later in October, if that works for you, Chair Headley. And let's see, what else is going on? Lots of really good things. Ori's been working on, as you know, cap goal number 5, which is to decarbonize our city operations. So our water heater replacement is currently underway for a few of the city facilities. I can't remember which ones off the top of my head, but they are happening in multiple city facilities through Wilden, who's a provider or contractor hired by PG&E, and they also give us the incentives. So that's what made it $0. So we got about $100 and something thousand in incentives and didn't have to pay anything for these water heaters we pushed out. So it's really good. And also Ori's working on these participation program in the Peninsula Clean Energy Solar Power Purchase Agreement. So putting solar on more of our city facilities through PCE, and then we would pay over time. So Ori's going to be bringing that item likely next month as part of his CAP 5 overview and what's the scope of work for 2025 to 2030 as well. So that project is getting close to like hitting the ground running at this point. So it was kind of slow, and now we're getting to a phase where we do need to start moving and making decisions. So that's really exciting as well. And I know Liz is here. She can give an update if she'd like on all the amazing work she's been doing with climate adaptation and resiliency and kind of preparing for the January meeting. And then just for the last part for some of the work I've been trying to facilitate a rebate administrator for the zero emission landscaping equipment for the electric gardening equipment. So kind of reached out to some nonprofits to see if they could do that. Some of the ones that already currently administer or discount waste and water rates, as well as some others. So I should be getting some of those informal votes back next week. So that'll help with, staff capacity and being able to kind of still work on other climate action plan initiatives. And then, of course, the study session for the $4.5 million, partnering with PCE and looking at workforce development. So the study session, we're going for it October 10th, tentatively scheduled. So I think we're on track to make that happen as well. So this will be really exciting time over the next couple of months for everybody to see what's going to be unfolding.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Thank you for sharing all of those updates. And I love just seeing our city as a role model and electrifying everything. So congratulations. To
Yes. Oh, sorry. I guess I don't know if you did hear, maybe Commissioner McKenna, but PCE did approve increasing the loan amount for cities to electrify. So like our pool And I think also providing an additional incentive. Right, so that was a lot of great public comments, thanks to our Councilmember Nash is on the board as well. I think that was very powerful, and so that's going to be a really great tool, financing and also getting incentives without the city council having to make a lot of trade-offs on other projects that are a priority to the community.
So good. So good. So good. I feel like there's so much to celebrate. I'm gonna bring champagne to next meeting.
All right, Liz, you can go for it.
Yeah, so like Rebecca said, doing a lot of work on CAP 6, climate adaptation, doing analysis, seeing where we're at, reviewing our vulnerability assessment through the county, and putting together information to present in January. So that's been the bulk of my work, and also working with PCE on our outreach for building electrification, setting up regular meetings with them and seeing where we're at and what we could do better on our website, and doing outreach with them. And then I have a couple of Zelly things coming up, so very busy, but exciting work.
So nice to have you here, Liz.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you're part of it. All right, any commissioner updates, announcements?
I don't know the date, but the home tours for home electrification is coming up. I signed up to the vote for it, so looking forward to that.
Awesome. October 14th, for those of you following in the world. Okay, other updates?
3 really quick things. Urban Forest Master Plan had a meeting with SFVI today, Canopy, and making good progress in the background. We need to reach out to CAL FIRE as the next step. We need to reconnect with Joanna to understand if one of the outcomes of that meeting was connecting with the it's a project manager for the budget. So the funding apparently has to have a project manager attached to it for the CIP funds. So we just want to see if that's been moving forward. And then yeah, and then I think the work stream leads, we're going to try to convene them together to kind of keep it moving forward in the background. And so like connecting back with Councilwoman Taylor and some other folks. So the good news is that's moving in the background, and I think we'll be targeting a presentation in the new year to the EQC. Second quick thing, it's good to know Liz is working on CAP 6, because we finally heard back from CRC about setting up some time. They've got an EPA grant where they're doing vulnerability assessments as well for Belhaven, and it really feels like it aligns with CAP 6. So Liz, we should try to get you invited to that meeting as well, but it seems like we can co-join the work with an EPA grant with the Belhaven community and CRC and with the city. So we'll try to engineer that. And then the third thing was the community trust meeting, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, but this idea of engaging youth that Nancy had come up with or was talking about. I think it might be youth and education together, which is a really interesting thing. So I went in there to talk a little bit about that to the community trust group, which is full of school superintendents in the city and the fire chief and the police chief. And anyway, so there's a lot of excitement, and the superintendent kind of approached me afterward and said, we really need to sit down and kind of get everything aligned, because the school district wants to apparently create their own climate action plan. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a real opportunity there to engage both youth and school district and use that as a template for engaging folks as well. So we're just waiting to get the data set up and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. I think there's a lot of leverage there.
Hold on.
All right. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Angela? Yeah.
Just really quickly, on the subject of the 4.5 million that may go to PCE, I realize council needs to vote on that. Just wanted to say that Menlo Spark is partnering with CRC to, in a preliminary way, expand the list of, we have about 20 to 21 single-family Belhaven residents who have expressed some initial interest in the program. And of course, they would have to go through the formal onboarding later with the approved entity. But we're going to try to make that list as large as we can, because we know there's a time limit to expend those funds. So working on it. And then number 2, I will continue to keep you guys posted on Menlo Sparks' efforts to decarbonize one of the low-income senior buildings in downtown Menlo Park. And one of the big takeaways I'm finding so far is that we've had a lot of success working with the property management company that manages the building. And it's clear that they are very close to a lot of the decision-making that governs whether or not this building will choose to electrify or not. And then they have now already expressed interest in electrifying a bunch of their other properties that they manage. And so I think that that's an interesting pathway to explore multifamily building electrification, is to go through property owners potentially and get their attention there. But we can talk about that more as that develops.
Very exciting. All right, well, let's see. I think we're at the conclusion of our meeting. It's 8:49. Excellent work, everyone.
Sweet.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Great meeting.
And
Thanks,
month.
everyone.
Yeah, thank you all.
Bye. Thank
See you
you.
feel better. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know-
Yeah, I do already. Thanks.
Yay.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.